They may not be named after a poem like our heroes, Our Lady Peace, but the Crash Jones Band is nothing if named logically. Nothing if not named nothing. Oh my God, dude.
Cut.
Let me read that one more time. The Crash Jones Band is named nothing if not logically, is what I'm trying to say. All right, let's do it again. All righty. They may not be named after a poem like our heroes, Our Lady Peace, but the Crash Jones Band is named nothing if not logically. That is their song, Diamonds Ain't Forever. And this is the Up and In Dynasty League Podcast, episode 12. I checked this before I hit record. That was pretty cool, right? My name is Scott Slonaker, and we have, well, he's pretty familiar to me. My brother Brett is also our defending league champion, and he is finally joining the podcast. I have saved him for last. You seemed a little mystified why you weren't asked to be on earlier? Is this, were you, or were you just, you don't care?
No,
Okay.
I wanted to go last.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought the idea was, yeah, like our dad. The idea was to have the defending league champion on right before this new season starts, which it's about to start here in, what is it, maybe 10 days, so that maybe, you know, the rest of the league could maybe get a little wisdom, you know, before we have to start playing the real
Take
fake.
Notice. The champions talking. Bring all the challengers.
the real fake, the fake real
I spent too much time paying attention to this.
Yeah, we're in the middle of free agency right now, and it's been a big off season. The league is we had 2 owners leave. We have 14 owners. So we had 2 owners leave last year, and so what we did is we relaunched those 2 teams. Imagine if you had an expansion draft, but there were no new franchises. So we just kind of released all the players, then had a draft of those players, or had a draft of the rookies on those teams, and then had an expansion draft where they took players from the other teams. And I don't know, how do you think that worked out?
It was really cool. I mean, I'm still crying about some of my awesome players that got stolen because, as you can imagine, my team was stacked, so I couldn't protect them all. But you know, we modeled it after the, what was it, 96, 97 expansion draft for Florida, Colorado.
Yeah,
which was pretty.
Yeah, it was Arizona and Tampa Bay. Yeah,
Arizona, Tampa Bay. Sorry,
but the '93 one, was essentially the same with Colorado and Florida. Yeah. So, but it's each team lost, I think it was 4 players, right? So then each expansion team started with 24 guys plus whoever they signed in free agency. And I don't know, I keep getting messages from the one team's ownership that it seems like they're a little worried that they're not going to have enough dudes on their roster. So I was like, just keep nominating players.
I noticed that
it never stops.
I noticed that going through, but they'll be able to pick up some cheap guys at the end when everybody runs out of money.
Yeah, they will.
Just like the Reds.
Right. They pick up the leftovers. We're going to talk about the Reds. But we should probably start at the beginning. Am I right? So
definitely.
It is kind of amazing to be, I don't know. I mean, you know, when you, I don't know how to say it, but it feels both like not that long ago and also a really, really long time ago. You know, that we were, you know, kids running around in the house. Well, we grew up in 2 different houses, and, you know, in footy pajamas. And it just, I don't know where all the time goes. You know, I'm just a little less than 4 years older than you are. So, you know, I don't know if I've told my own origin story. I was given this kind of apocryphal origin story that turned out to be partially true. And, you know, my about I think I know I brought it up in one of the podcasts about mom and dad were in Missouri, and they it wasn't a very fun place to be. Dad was working in a federal prison.
Yep.
As a dentist. He was just out of school, and they ended up leaving this program early. They had to they had to stay there for 2 years. They didn't make it through 2 years, and they came back and they had me. And they didn't have much of anything really. And so then, by the time you came along, they were a little better off. They had a house.
Yeah. So I have to say thank you for enduring the years of the roach-infested Forest Park place or whatever.
Yeah,
out there, and thank you for being the responsible one, so that I could be the fun one.
The firstborn bears a terrible burden. He does. Right. But that's true. Because they moved to the house in Westchester in '79.
Yeah, so you were little. I was born.
You
in
were
80,
not born
so.
in '80.
Yep.
So you got to miss that. I mean, I don't really remember it. I mean, I've seen pictures, obviously, but there were stories of the garage windows being shot out by BB guns, and I don't know. I mean, it didn't. I don't think it was that bad, but they were they weren't terribly happy there either. So, yeah. So then moving to at the time, Westchester was a pretty small suburb. Now it is basically its own city. It is around 100,000 people. I mean, it's far enough from Cincinnati that
at this point, that's why I moved away, but we can get into that
later. We'll get there. I just, but it was smaller then. It was basically a rural community with a burgeoning.
Yeah, a lot of farmland. Suburbs. Yeah.
And, so they just, and I get a lot of, I've probably mentioned this before. I get a lot of deja vu when I look at my own house and my own spot where I live. And, I ended up living somewhere astonishingly like that Sandpiper, not that where I live in Columbus is anything like Westchester politically or otherwise, because it's not, but just the look of it. I had the houses about the same age. There's a cul-de-sac or at the end. Now we just overlook a freeway instead of a farm, which later became more houses. So, but that was a great house to grow up in, I think.
Yeah.
So I just, the woods,
wiffle ball, home run derby, all that stuff. I remember.
Yeah, I've got my son out in the cul-de-sac with tennis balls and a yellow wiffle bat. I used to be able to crank the ball, so I practically throw my shoulder out of joint every single time I miss. And it's just really, my son, of course, wants to jump right to the high level and use the metal bat and real baseballs, and my neighbors will just kill me. So I'm not gonna. I said no.
I know they better watch out their windows. I've seen your son throwing a football at his age. He's got some skills.
He's got an arm. Yeah. I know. Is Blake going to give baseball another go around, or?
No, he decided to stick. He's into cross country and running right now. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he got into cross country. Oh, that's cool.
He's getting ready for the junior high cross country team in a couple of years. They've got a little group that meets once a week and they run. They're doing like 4K training. Yeah, he's pretty into that when he's not like online with his friends Zooming and playing video games and stuff.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. My kids are still too young to have their own phones or their own. I know you're approaching that level, and I'm not.
No phone yet, but Santa did get him his own gaming laptop for Christmas, so he's all about it.
Santa brought mine a Nintendo Switch, and I have been the one playing it mostly. They're doing mostly mobile games. They got the funniest thing to me, and then I'm going to go back to our young lives, is that there's a Mario game that is touch screen. You tap the screen to jump, but it's otherwise a lot like the other Mario games on Nintendo that everybody knows. And so then I pulled out the Nintendo Classic and the Super Nintendo Classic, and we started running through the old Mario games, and the controller is, I mean, it's too. My daughter is just like wants to tap the screen to jump, and
Right.
and she just is not. She's not ready for the actual controllers. So it's just kind of funny. That and I remember the first time we finished dying in the first Super Mario Brothers, and Grant's like, "Oh, well, we'll just continue." Is like, that's not the
Nope.
way. You got to start over, bro.
World 1-1.
And he's like, "Bruh."
Yeah.
The merciless nature of old video games made me laugh.
Yeah.
So, all righty. So we did have a lot of video games in our house.
Yes, true.
What do you remember about Dad bringing home an Atari 2600 in
I do remember you
1982
having, yeah.
or
I
3?
remember because at our first house, me and you and eventually even Kurt as a baby all lived up in that one room, but you moved downstairs when you were old enough into the bedroom that was the guest room, and that was right around the time
with
that you
this
got an
horrible
Atari.
brown and white carpeting.
Oh yeah,
Awful.
And of course, I think that you might have been a little too scared to move down there when you were younger, if I remember correctly. If I want to throw you under the bus, but no. But
No.
yeah, that was right when you got the Atari, if I remember. And we used to sit in there and watch you, but we weren't allowed to play it or touch it, right? Because we were only allowed to watch.
Well, I remember the Atari being in the family room because Dad had bought it. He paid $200 for it, which was a lot of money in 1980.
I don't remember that
2
part.
or 3.
Yeah,
I don't know exactly what year it was, but the Atari, the company, crashed in 1983. There was that very famous incident where they ended up burying all the ET games in the desert. You probably heard that. Yeah, that was 83. I'm thinking he probably bought it right before that. So, and the Atari then kind of died after all that. I mean, because they took a big L, and then Nintendo came along in 85 and pretty much wiped them out.
I was going to say, you got the NES, and that was the king. But I remember, what was your favorite game on Atari? Was it? I remember you used to play that game, Yaris Revenge.
Yaris Revenge. It's probably one of the best ones. You never stop moving. They got this little thing chasing you around the screen, and then there's another thing trying to shoot you from this way, and you have to get rid of the shield of bricks. And then, it's a lot, and it was. That was a classic one. There was a Space Invaders, this one called Demon Attack that I played a lot. There was
Stampede. Do you remember that one?
Stampede, where you had to rope the. Oh man, that was frustrating though.
Yeah, it was. You died so fast in that game. It was
So
good stuff.
Yeah,
I do remember too. When you had the NES, I got to be your co-pilot, and I always remembered that I was honored because you gave me you bestowed upon me the job of holding the Nintendo Power that had the map for whatever game you were playing. So while you were playing, I wasn't allowed to touch the controller.
Wasn't I a great guy? I was a great guy. Of course, then I would lose my temper and just eject you and take it out on you and eject you from the room.
Right.
And whether you had actually done anything or not. If I was in a good mood, I would answer your questions. And if I wasn't in a good mood, then, you had to be silent or else you were gone. And it was really, and you know what? I see my son do the same thing to my daughter sometimes. And it's really, I was very capricious at times about these things, but I'm glad that you remembered the happy parts.
Well, I try to look at things on the bright side.
No,
remember in old video games. I mean, we have, obviously video games, that was kind of, but remember it was more computer games when it comes to baseball, at least, was Micro League.
Micro League. That's right.
Oh my goodness. Did we not spend a lot of time? And you spent way more time than me.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, literally, okay, so here is my, don't let Justin zoom in on this too far. It's the plans of how to beat him. But, this is exactly what you used to do on paper when putting together the Micro League rosters, right? Yes. I mean, it's insane. I'm still doing it to this day.
Right. So I bought Micro League Baseball for the Apple II. We got an Apple II when I was in 3rd grade in 1986, the same year Kerr was born, our youngest brother. And then I got Micro League Baseball, or we got the Apple II. And then I think, so that would mean probably in 87 for Christmas of 86. Then in 87, I got Micro League Baseball, and it came with the game disc, and it had all the historic greats teams. There was like an AL greats and NL greats, and then there were like a bunch of famous teams, and it went up through 1983 was the most recent team. Well, then you could mail away and get a general manager's disc. And I did that. I forked over 1995 or 2095. I can't remember. Got this disc and built all these teams. I built a team of Cincinnati Reds greats. It was incredible.
I remember that. Yep.
And I had a copy of the baseball encyclopedia, with all turn the page, every two page spread was a whole year's stats, which I would read this thing for fun because I was crazy. And then I looked through there, found those, entered the stats in, and then, the game would play. You enter in some fielding ratings or whatever, and the game would play. And it was pretty darn close. The only player that never hit for shit when I was playing was Joe Morgan. Joe Morgan would hit, was supposed to hit 327 or something like that, and actually would hit more like 227 every time. But this is the best part, and then I'll stop talking about myself as much. When I was keeping stats, if I wrote them down on paper, I made like a grid, at bats, homers, RBIs, steals, first, singles. And I made the grid on paper, but then after every game, you'd have to erase with a pencil. And sorry for the hand motion. You'd have to erase with I'd have to erase with a pencil and write it in. And so that would wear through the paper. So what I did was I'd cover the paper with Scotch tape.
Yep. I remember
which
these
would
pages.
and so then you would erase it endlessly. I'd cover the whole paper with Scotch tape. It would take, a portion of a roll, like, the Scotch tape, I don't know, Mom, I don't know where the Scotch tape went. and then that way I could erase, at least 50 or 100 times. And I'd play all these games. And like I said, Joe Morgan always hit 100 points under his average, but everybody else was pretty close. And that game, I spent so much time with the game. I made a whole league of fake teams, and there was a team with us on it. And I mean, I was hitting like 360 with 59 homers, but I think you were pretty good too. You weren't as good as me, but you were pretty good.
Of course. All right.
Yeah.
Not like real life.
When did you, you didn't really play. I don't remember you really playing micro league, but I mean, you started in with baseball sims. You did play it some? Okay.
Yeah. I would, you know how it is, little brother. I would pick up, pick up whatever, whether it was micro league, or I remember there was another box game that, where you would roll dice with paper sheets, and each of the players had scores. And I remember like you teaching me how to play it one time on the whole drive on the way down to Florida when we would stay down there for vacation and playing it down there. Do you remember that game? What was that called?
I had a few there. I had a game called All-Star Baseball that had round player cards, and you spun a spinner.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Okay. So then there's that one.
Like team sheets with grades, and you would roll dice to see what the outcomes were.
That was an Avalon Hill game called Pennant Race. And I got that. And it was supposed to be like a kind of like a general manager type. It was kind of like a pen and paper version of like an out of the park baseball where you sim
That's what micro league was, really.
Yeah,
out of the park.
But I mean, micro league baseball couldn't simulate a whole day's games with one button push. You had to play the games.
Yeah, true.
Out of the park, you can play the games, or you can simulate a whole season, or you can simulate just a game or a few games or whatever. And so Pennant Race was meant to simulate one game in like a couple of dice rolls. Like you didn't play innings and at bats and stuff like you would with Stratomatic. It was
like the final box score was the dice roll, and who had the RBIs and who had the home runs and how many innings pitched, and
that's true. And it had a bunch of little cards, and no, it didn't have a bunch of little cards. That was another game that I had. I had a lot of them.
I remember having one where you used real baseball cards. I used to play all the time because I collected tons of baseball cards, obviously, back then. And they had little lineup stands, and you could stick the cards in them, and then you would roll dice. And depending on the stats on the back of the card, like their actual stats, was how you would score.
I remember Championship Baseball, which was a dice game with a bunch of baseball cards, but like they didn't pay for the logos, so all the guys had blank batting helmets and stuff.
Yeah.
There was that one, and then on the back, it would say like 6 was a home run, 6 and a 5 was a fly out to right field or whatever. And it was based on the stat.
You
Yeah.
gotta
I mean,
love
there's
how many
so
ways
many of these.
we've tried to like simulate baseball over our lives,
Oh
and
my
this league
goodness.
is yet another, and probably one of the best. I mean, think about like between micro league, the computer games, the box games, the baseball card games, all that stuff.
Yeah.
The game where you spun it, and if they were a power hitter, the home run part would be a little
A
wider.
one,
But if
yeah, the one for home run would be
it was
wide.
like a
Yeah.
tiny little sliver.
Dave
And what about?
Kingman had the biggest one. Pete
Yeah,
Rose had like
exactly.
a little tiny line.
Then there's video games, like actual like console games too. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much you got into baseball console games. Like I remember when I went off to college, it was 1999, and I got into, if anybody remembers, Triple Play Baseball '99, which probably had one of the greatest baseball mini game modes ever, which was a home run derby where you could play where
Mhm.
your hitters were basically like miniature people inside of like a living room or a construction site or whatever. And in the outfield, beyond the
Okay.
wall, all of the various things that were in the environment were worth different points.
You there? Okay. You cut out for a minute.
Back. Yeah, I don't know. When did
So,
it cut out? Sorry.
I mean, it was maybe 15 seconds ago. Were you talking the whole time?
I wasn't sure. You paused. Your face paused.
Oh, well,
So
in my screen, okay. Damn internet.
anyway,
Anyway.
it was an awesome game where you could like aim
Okay.
for like the parrot, the bird cage in the corner down the line for an extra 1,000 points or whatever. It was back when like
Wow.
McGuire and Sosa were, huge, and it was
Mhm.
awesome. We used to play a ton of it. Magic Carpet Ride was the theme song on the main screen. So
Magic
anyway,
carpet ride.
there's someone out there will be like, yes, that game was awesome. And
Yeah.
after that, it was PvP Baseball 2005. I don't know if you ever played that one. Greatest baseball game ever invented on a console. It was EA Sports' last baseball game before they signed away the rights for MLB
Mhm.
and went fully on to NFL.
Yeah. For some
Awesome
reason,
game.
I didn't really. It's not deliberate, but I have just never really played baseball games on consoles.
No.
I don't have any issue with it. I just never really play sports games on consoles that much. I mean, other than like Tecmo Bowl. That was it. I always did the more simmy stuff on the computer. I'm not putting
Yeah.
anything down. I just
Yeah.
I think I might have played baseball on the original Nintendo and maybe like bases loaded, or RBI baseball. I mean, I tried them out, but um, yeah, I mean, I always I had friends who played uh, baseball stars on the Nintendo that had
Oh,
a
yeah.
kind of a cult following.
Yeah, that was more of a GM type game, Baseball Stars.
A little
The big
bit,
one,
yeah.
Backyard Baseball was a big popular one. I didn't play that one as much. I
Is
wish I
is
would have.
backyard baseball the one that Jordan and Jake did a whole thing on?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I read about that. I'd never played that game, but I read about it. I thought it was entertaining. There's the one kid that's like incredibly good,
yeah.
and he
Pablo
doesn't.
Sanchez, I believe, is his
Pablo
name. He's got a big
Sanchez,
cult
right?
following online.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
basically like pick them like in gym class, like kind of game, where you play like a
Hmm.
wiffle ball game. But yeah,
Yep.
pretty cool.
So, as an adult, I got into. I did play Out of the Park quite a bit, although I haven't played it in a
Yeah.
few years now. There was the
I
Stratomatic
didn't allow
computer
myself
game.
to get into it because I knew I didn't have the time for it.
Yeah, I played a lot of. I think it was either with maybe number 6, number 7, one of those. I don't really have time to play long running computer games that much. I mean, I that was one of the appeals of getting the Switch was that I can play a little bit with the kids and then I have games for me.
Right.
I spent about 4 hours earlier today playing a game for me on the Switch. So, some things never stop. So because it was always RPGs and baseball games.
Oh
That's what I
yeah.
play. So
Yeah, I remember you playing Final Fantasy, the original, back in the day on NES a ton.
no. Yeah, game felt a little simplistic because I had played RPGs on the computer.
Oh yeah.
Although the very first one that I ever got on the Apple, the Bard's Tale, which is a series that had a sequel made just a couple years ago, believe it or not.
Really?
Um, I had no idea what I was doing whatsoever. It took hours and hours just to figure out that I had to equip stuff. And I never won that game ever. And so I'm actually not very good at a lot of these games. I guess
the catacombs were too strong for you, huh?
Yeah, I know. I couldn't actually beat it. I was more than powerful enough to. I just ground and ground and ground and ground. Oh well. I know. Yeah, I was. You were always a little bit more well-rounded than I was. I was, I just, I gravitated towards nerdy stuff early on and just never really got away from it. And I think you kind of dipped your toe in a little bit, but, um, once I gave up sports, especially, it was, it was Geek City, man. And,
Yeah, we should
so
talk little league sports because I know you
Little
played
League
some.
sports.
Obviously, I played too. Yeah.
We
So
should
I mean,
talk Little League
talking
sports.
about like baseball all the way through your life, right? So like,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, growing up, obviously, Dad used to take us to games at Riverfront
Mhm.
when we were kids. He had the season tickets that he split with a bunch of other people from work, and then he would
Yeah.
rotate taking us,
So basically
which was
he'd get like eight pairs of tickets a year,
Yeah,
basically.
which was awesome because we get to go to a few games, and it was always cool because sometimes it'd be on a school night and we get home late, and like he'd take us
He
right
would
after
try
school,
not to get those
hurry
though.
up and like eat real quick when we get home from school and jump in the car. Or sometimes even the best times we would roll by Skyline and sit at the counter together and eat conies, and I'd always ask for three, and he'd tell me I need two, and I can have one more if I eat,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. And it was at the
I ended up being
impossibly
manager.
late hour of like 10:30, like right before they closed.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
afterward, yeah. And then, so I mean, obviously getting into baseball early on, Grandpa Gordy was a big Reds fan. He was, I mean, I used to hear
He
about the
was.
Big Red Machine,
Yeah, he was.
obviously before my time, but, um, and then, playing Little League Baseball, obviously. And you were an umpire, right? After you hung up your cleats, you were an umpire. I played a lot.
Yeah, funnily enough, I hung up my cleats after my last season. The last game of the season, I got no hits my second to last year, and I got 2 hits my last year. And in the last game of the season, I was playing right field, which at that age, I was 11 or 12. You didn't really get the ball hit to the outfield very much. Once the kids start pitching, there's a lot of walks and a lot of strikeouts, right? Kind of like baseball today.
Yeah, right.
Less homers, but more walks, more strikeouts. And I was playing right field because it wasn't that good. And I got like 3 easy fly balls hit right to me in the same game, and I caught them all.
Wow.
And everybody freaked out. I'm probably overselling it a little bit, but I remember getting a lot of cheers when I actually caught
Yeah.
these easy fly balls right at me.
Because they were all like, "Oh my God, he's gonna drop it! Oh my God, he's gonna drop it!"
And then I was given the most improved trophy at the end of the year,
Nice.
and then I never played again.
Hey, hang them up while you're on top, right?
So you did not have to improve so much. You were already pretty good.
Yeah, I will say I was a pretty good little league player.
You were pretty good. I
I was a
remember
shortstop and a starting pitcher. Yeah.
the coach of your team, Coach Bradford, who was they became family friends of
Oh
ours.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember him standing in the dugout, like while you and a couple of the other players on your team were busy whacking line drives over. He's like, "Yeah, I got some all-stars on this team."
Yep. So later
And it
on in
was,
life on Facebook, somebody that I was friends with still, their dad was one of the heads of the league at that time when we were kids, and posted screenshots of all of like the draft notes. And I was a number 1 draft pick. Yeah.
oh, that wasn't Aversa, was it?
No.
No. Okay. All right.
So I can't even remember. I
That
have to
was the
go
guy who was the league commissioner when I was the umpire, and he was
maybe
a
they were a
tremendous
co-commissioner,
pain in the
but
butt.
yeah,
Okay.
that was the problem with being a
You don't
number 1
remember
draft.
Aversa?
Yeah, no, I don't remember that name.
Okay. All right. Never mind. Sorry.
Of course, there was always the few teams that had like, oh, family friends, we carpool together, so we have to be on the same team, so they'd be stacked. So even though I was a first pick, I was on a team that wasn't that great.
Will you send me a link to this? I haven't heard you
It
talk
was on
about this.
Facebook somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. If you could remember.
And, so anyway, yeah, I was a shortstop and a starting pitcher until I remember one game I hit 3 batters in the same inning because I was a little bit wild, and I never pitched after that. They had to, I remember the last kid I threw pretty hard for that age, but totally like a shotgun blast. You don't know where it's going. And I remember they had to come out with the spray that they sprayed on the kid where it hit him and stuff. And the other fans,
Oh, the
the other
cooling spray, right?
yeah, the other team's fans were mad. Like we were losing the game, and I wasn't doing it on purpose, but I was definitely firing as hard as I could. But I'll never forget that was the last time I ever was a starting pitcher. In fact, the team we were playing against was the black jersey team, And one of the players on that team was Kofi Babb, who was the quarterback for our high school, and I was a wide receiver later on in life. So it all comes
Yeah.
around, I guess.
I was friends with Kofi's older brother. Yeah.
Yeah, Qualms. Yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway, that was the last time I pitched, and then I took I think my last year Little League, I took a grounder off a rock that hit me in the nose, and I bled a lot in the dirt. And that was the last time I played shortstop. Actually, after
Mhm.
that, I moved to a traveling team. I ended up playing outfield, and in high school, I played center field. I never went back to the dirt after that. Obviously, the level of competition on the traveling team was a little better than the local Little League competition too. So I probably got pushed to the outfield because there were better kids. But
Right. I
yeah,
don't personally have a lot of memories of you pitching, except there was an all-star game.
I was probably like 8, 9, 10 until I started beaning kids. Apparently, I remember it.
Well, there was an all-star game the year that Dad's office sponsored your team, and you had the white and red jerseys that
Yeah,
said Dr. Slonaker
with
on
the
them
apple on it.
with an
Yeah,
apple.
yep,
And
yep.
and then I ended up umpiring the all-star game that you were playing in, and you got put in as pitcher. And I don't remember you pitching much that season.
Yeah, I don't
And
remember either.
I don't know, you were maybe 11.
Yeah, something like that.
Because I stopped umpiring when I was old enough to get like an actual job. So if I was about 15, then that would have been about right.
The best pitcher on that team was a female, actually. I think it was 5th grade. Her name was Chrissy or Christy, but yeah, she was the best pitcher on our team that year.
Okay. Well, wow.
So, anyway.
I don't remember you being on a team with a girl. Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was actually on a football team with a girl too for junior high for 2 years. There was a girl, she was on the wrestling team and the football team. Her name was Jade, and she played like guard, I think. She was actually pretty daggone good too.
Wow.
Girls much quicker than boys in junior high, I guess. She was strong.
Yeah, they can.
Story. And I remember too, Little League World Series. I was on that team too. I was a bench player, and I didn't get to start. But I remember we got mauled by Hamilton West Side, which actually had a run this past year in the Little League World Series.
The Hamilton, yeah.
Yep.
Hamilton has been to the Little League World Series a few times. I don't think they've ever won the title.
They had kids that were like mustache at like 12 when we were playing. I swear. They had one kid that hit one so far it went into an above ground pool in the house that was beyond the fence, like at the Hamilton Parks. I remember it splashed.
Oh my goodness. Hamilton, this is maybe half an hour north of Cincinnati, and home of famous Reds player and broadcaster Joe Nuxall, among other things.
Yep. Classic baseball program for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, so the umpiring thing worked out really well for me because I clearly didn't actually want to play baseball anymore. I was kind of afraid of the ball, to be honest with you. I don't think I ever really got comfortable enough to, I was bailing out a lot in the ball. It wasn't my thing. And playing it wasn't my thing. So the umpiring though, because I knew so much about the games, I am reading the encyclopedias and building fake teams and, listening to the radio broadcast and all this stuff. So I started doing that at like 13 maybe. And the pay was $10 to $12 a game, which was big money back then. That seemed like a lot of money.
As long as you're willing to take the ribbing from the fans who are going to like follow you to the parking lot while you wait for your ride home and yell at you or whatever.
I never had anybody follow me to the parking lot, but I had people yell. Absolutely. I had an old lady yell at me one time, like when everybody else was quiet. And yeah, I called a kid safe at first base, or I called a kid out at first base, and he was safe by 3 steps. And it was and the entire first base line just erupted. Oh my God. And I knew it was the wrong call. And of course,
what do you do? Yeah.
I didn't change it.
Yeah.
It was the wrong call.
Stuff happens.
Tag plays were the worst because a lot of times the kids didn't often use the right technique. The ball would beat the runner there, and then they would be holding it too high.
Oh yeah.
And then the guy would slide in, and from the stands it looks like an easy out, but in some cases it was actually safe because the guy didn't tag him on the foot as he's coming in. He tagged him like up on the thigh.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of those too that were ugly.
Yeah.
So
no instant replay.
No.
LSO.
No. And if the kid threw really hard or was wild, and I had to kind of stay back there, that was hard. there's this one little shaggy farm kid who threw left-handed, he was, I mean, I don't know. He was like this he was like a 10-year-old version of, Steve Dolkowski or something. He was just like all over the place. Wild. I mean, nobody could hit him. But, the catcher was like not really keen on catching the ball either. And I mean, he was good.
Player at that age, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, but the umpiring was good to me. I did that for basically like 3 years. The other funny story I have about umpiring, and then I'll stop, is at one time at the beginning of one of the seasons, I really wanted to buy some Nintendo games or something. So I like volunteered. I was like, they had the umpires meeting and I like volunteered. There was a game the next night or something. And so I volunteered really quick and they didn't bother to check what league it was. So I get to the park, I'm like 14 and it's like a high school game.
Oh.
And luckily the umpire supervisor, who was like maybe 18 or 19, was there. And I'm in the car with Mom and I'm like, Mom, I don't think those guys have mustaches. Maybe they was just a Hamilton Little League team. I don't know. Maybe, but I mean, they were like 15, 16 years old at least. And I was really glad. And I was like, I can't do this. Like the umpire is supposed to be older than the players. Right. So then this guy, the guy who was the supervisor, thank God, took the game and was like, I'm sorry, man. I just don't think I could do this. And he still scheduled me after that. But that was, oh boy. That's
funny.
I was about to pee myself. It was, I mean, because I was like, I can't, there's no way. I was used to umping like, 9-year-olds. Anyway, it was great work. It was great work. It was only 2 months a year, but you could make a couple $100. And I mean, that I felt rich, man.
Yeah.
So it was, and I definitely umped a couple of your games. And, we tried to downplay that whenever we could. I was trying not to, I don't recall, I certainly wouldn't have ever shown you any favoritism. I mean,
it probably would have been the other way around, right?
Oh, no. But I mean, I was, you just like, if Mom and Dad were there at the game, it was like, shh.
Don't tell anybody.
This is not right. You have one son umping the game and the other son's out on the mound pitching or whatever.
The other team's playing under protest. I mean, it was big time stakes too,
I didn't get in trouble. I mean, we didn't get in trouble, but it was just, I was a professional, man. I was also scared of shit. So it made it easier to be professional. All righty. So you went on, you played on the travel team. I was never a travel ball sort of guy. I mean,
the Bandits. We were the Bandits. We had the logo that was the baseball with the little band, little handkerchief there. It was pretty cool.
I mean, you'll always hear if you listen to podcasts or whatever, you see interviews with pro players. They all played all the Americans all played travel ball.
It was awesome. You get to go somewhere else and hang out in the hotel with all your baseball buddies and jump in the pool and play. And all the dads would like get together at night and play poker and drink Knob Creek or whatever was Dad's favorite back then.
I'm sure it's also really expensive.
Knob Creek, actually, yeah. And then we had the guy on the team, Hepburn, whose dad had a mini cannon that he would fire off when we won the game.
Ooh.
It was the size of, I don't know. I mean, it weighed a lot, but it wasn't that big. But yeah, he would fire off a mini cannon. That was pretty cool.
No, it sounds awesome. I've just heard stories. Maybe I'm since I didn't have it from the kid's perspective, from the parents' perspective, it's like, I don't know how much I want my kid to be good enough to play travel ball of any kind.
Because I'm sure it costs Mom and Dad a lot too, because you got to have the fancy like bat bag and all the different colored uniforms. We had the uniforms we had pinstripe pants, and we also had the vests that went over the different colored shirts, black and red with white pinstripes. They were pretty sweet. I remember listening to a lot of blues in Dad's Mitsubishi Diamante while we were driving to those.
That later became my Mitsubishi Diamante.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
You drove it later on before it died. It had a great sound system with
it never died. I sold it.
Did you? Didn't it have the 6-disc changer in the trunk?
It had the 6-disc changer in the trunk. No, I was given Dad's corporation sold it to me for $1. when I graduated college in 1999 as a thank you for them not having to pay tuition for the last 2 years of this college for me that I earned with scholarships. And so then I drove that for several years. It was always fine. A truck backed into it when I was living in Oakley.
It was a sweet car.
Yeah. And then when I went to Europe in 2005, I sold it to someone in Columbus. And then when I got back from Europe and I was living in Columbus at my ex-girlfriend's parents' house for a couple months before I moved to Oregon, I saw the car again.
Really? That's funny.
And it had a big dent. I mean, it had a big dent in the door when I sold it, but I got $1,800 cash for it.
Not bad.
Not bad. So that's a $1,799 profit. Thank you very much.
Nice. Maybe Crash should rename his theme song. It should be Diamantes Ain't Forever.
Yeah. Diamantes Ain't. Well, it did last. Now it had to have a new transmission, but that was while Dad still owned it. So
yeah, that thing probably cost $3,000.
It had won like car of the year in one of the car magazines that he read. So he got it, and then it didn't sell. It was not Edsel level, but I mean, there were not that many of them out there, and they were built in Australia. So they never imported that many to begin with. So, and it was that kind of weird diamondy color.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and then, as I got older, it was more just kind of like grayish or just like a muted silver.
Pearl shimmer.
Yeah. But yeah, the 6-disc changer in the trunk, it was a great sound system. It sounded awesome.
It was great. Yeah. I remember playing with that thing. It was
and I used to listen to everything on the jazz setting because for some reason the treble sounded really good. The rock setting was kind of muddled for some reason. I don't know. I don't care about jazz. It sounded better that way. So yeah, it's like, oh shit, I got to pull over and change the.
I remember doing that. We'd have to move Dad, Gold's gym bag out of the way in the trunk or whatever to get to the 6-disc changer.
All right. So you did on prom night, you drove that car really fast. Am I right? It's the statute of limitations has run out. You can go on about it
now. That's true. Yeah, I did borrow it to take prom date to prom, and yeah, we might have hit the highway a little too fast for some fun. But actually, I eclipsed the speed when I drove. I took the same girl to her prom, that was when Lakota had split to East and West.
You went to the visiting team's prom?
Yes, and I drove her dad's Volvo, and I may have gotten into a race on 75 North with a guy who had a really pimped out Mustang, and I lost. But it was the fastest I've ever driven in my life, 130 miles an hour.
Okay. Well, okay.
I rubber in the garage when I parked that father's car.
You did. Wait, say that again. You did what?
I parked the car in the garage after that, and it smelled like burnt rubber still the next morning in the garage.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Anyway, can't believe you brought that up.
Yeah. Hey, I did not have the balls to drive anything 130 miles an hour.
I drive very, very safe, I will say.
Yeah.
That was dumb.
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I had remembered the story as you drove the Diamante, and you said you drove that one pretty fast because that car could go really fast. Yeah, it did.
It was a very short distance just to see how it would get it up.
Okay.
She was like.
But the Volvo, you were street racing. Got it. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Great. Well, it would have been super safe if you'd wrecked it, right?
I guess.
At least the Volvo. So,
which is funny because I didn't necessarily even do that. I had a little Subaru hatchback or whatever, and that thing only would go, maybe a max of 70. So I guess I got a taste of some power and had to try it out.
Yeah. All right then. Well, yeah, okay. So, you do all the travel ball. It really does sound, I mean, it sounds like it would have been awesome. I mean, if you're not paying for it, which.
Yeah. And right around that time though, is when I kind of got away from baseball. I started getting more into football, which, obviously I played that through high school too. That was the transition. Like the travel ball, I kind of let that go and moved into like junior high and high school football. Playing for Lakota then. And eventually I actually did play JV a couple of years and 1 year of varsity baseball, although I was keeping pitch count. And, I think I
Not really
started
playing.
opening day as a senior in center field, but our team wasn't very good. And the coach had an eye on the future. So he brought in a prospect, to take over center field once we lost a couple of games because he realized we weren't going to win the GMC. So I sat on the bench and kept pitch count, senior year of baseball, which was fun because I was totally like,
Well, I didn't realize you made it all the way to senior year. I thought you quit before you graduated.
Yeah, I played JV my sophomore and junior, and actually I was
Mhm.
pissed I didn't make varsity my junior year. But then, yeah, senior year I made varsity, but I also did a theatrical production at the same time, and my coach wasn't very happy about that, so he benched
Right.
me and
Which
pitch count.
frankly was awesome. I just want to point that out. That was
Yeah,
awesome
yeah,
because in our high school, we went to this giant high school. Um, I graduated before it split into two. It split into two while you were there. We're going to talk about the splitting and how it affected the football team here in a
oh
minute,
yeah, that was
because
fun.
I'll never
I got a
forget
lot of
that.
opportunity.
Yeah. Well, that's a really positive spin to put on it. Um, but so kids tended to be kind of specialized. You didn't have in a small school, kid could play football and, be in a play and, be in the National Honor Society and be on the math team. If the kid was bright enough to do all those things and skilled enough to do all those things, you could do them.
Yeah,
But in a big high school, it was really uncommon for that kind of stuff. Like you had,
yeah, we had almost 5,000 students in 3 grades. I mean, it was pretty big.
yeah, I mean, across both buildings, probably. Yeah. I mean, my
Yeah,
my graduating class had
yeah,
about
it had to be
600.
probably way high.
Yours was probably in the 8 to 900 range, maybe
No,
between both
you're right. It was
schools.
only like 500 in my class. So yeah, those numbers don't check out. It was more like 3 grand for across both schools. But
Okay,
yeah,
okay, but still, I mean, it's big. Interestingly enough, it stopped growing these
ran
days.
out of farms to bulldoze for neighborhoods.
Ran out of farms to, yeah,
Again, why I moved.
right. But anyway, the so kids tended to specialize a little bit more. So the athletes, I mean, I'm not suggesting all the athletes were dumb. They certainly were not, but you just didn't see the athletes you didn't see a lot of athletes in National Honor Society. You didn't see a lot of athletes doing the kind of,
Theater,
stereotypically geeky
definitely not.
stuff. Yeah. Or theater, which I did a lot of theater throughout high school.
Yeah.
And it was a great way to meet girls.
Yep.
Um, and
I had
because
I had an onstage kiss actually in one production.
Yeah, wow. I did not have to do that.
Sweet
Now I
Chinese.
had to play a dad, which I was not, which at age 15 yeah, I had to like hug my wife and kids and stuff. I was like, I can't. Anyway, and the woman excuse me, the girl playing my wife was like a senior. So, I'm
Yeah.
sure she'd kissed boys before. Anyway, but it was, yeah. So no, I forgot you had an onstage. Yeah, that's because I think I saw you perform I mean, did you do more than one play or just the one?
I did too.
You did two. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I heard it when you mentioned it before, like, the baseball coach is pissed off that
Oh, I had many
and
people through my life tell me that I needed to pick their sport. Yes, I fought that my entire life. I played 3 seasons of sports rotating, and
right.
I ditched soccer. I was big into little league soccer, and I ditched that for football going into junior high. And football, they wanted me to drop basketball and baseball, and basketball
Yeah.
wanted me to drop the others, and baseball wanted me to drop the others. So interesting. Like for instance, a story for basketball. I was always coming out of football season. I was a post player who wasn't tall enough. I could get your rebounds and a whole lot of fouls. I wasn't a great shooter, but I loved to play, and I was always in shape and could run the court and everything. But eventually, the coach, who was a legend
He was. He
Coach
won a state title when I was a freshman in Division
Steve
One,
Greger, and yeah, who went on to play.
1992.
Yeah. So anyway,
The greatest basketball game I've
was
ever
Mr.
seen, by the way.
He was Mr.
State title
Untouchable,
game.
but eventually he got fired for some shit that he definitely did. But anyway, he took me aside going into my.
I didn't realize he got fired. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure he did. There was yeah. But anyway, he was an
Okay.
old school coach, just put it that way.
He was.
But yeah, he took me into the locker room and basically going into senior year and told me to that I probably shouldn't even try out for senior year because I wasn't going to make varsity. He didn't have me in his plans. So I was, not happy about that, but because I hadn't specialized. And so I used to go to the summer basketball camps, and he would always tell me like, you need to drop the other sports and focus more on basketball. So anyway, I never did because I wasn't the greatest basketball player. I just like to play. But that's when I got into theater that winter, and I did my first production instead of basketball. And that's how I led into doing a second one in the spring, which conflicted with actually making the varsity baseball team. And the varsity baseball coach, Coach Dressback, he was a former Reds bullpen coach. He won a state title with Lakota West a few years back, actually. But yeah, he was.
Yeah, the name's familiar.
And I was the starting center fielder. But when he found out that I was going to also be in a theatrical production, which I believe was Sweet Charity, I got benched, and I was keeping pitch count on the bench. Man. Which I also wasn't hitting early in the season, and we were losing, and he wanted to bring in the sophomores and let them get some PT. But and I was in It's a Wonderful Life was the winter one that I was in. I was Mr. Martini, the bartender. I was probably like 6 different. I was part of the cast, and the head of the production told me just to lip sync on the musical numbers because I can't sing worth shit. So
I sang for real a couple times. Yeah,
I was awful, but it was fun and a good way to meet girls, like you said. So
yeah, it's just really well, okay. I understand if you've made a commitment to a varsity team and then you're like, I'm going to do this other thing.
I made 2 commitments. Oops.
Yeah, and I can understand being frustrated with that, but this thing about how you need to dedicate your life to me as your coach in one sport over all the other activities. You know what? I mean, how many kids from your graduating class went on to play even college baseball? Like, I mean, a handful.
Yeah, a couple.
I mean, our high school would have a guy draft maybe every couple of years. Every 2 or 3 years would be a guy.
Yeah, you can run down the list. I mean, Lakota did have some professional players.
They did.
Right now, Jordan Hicks is one that that's been in the news lately. He went to Lakota West, linebacker.
Right. There was the grandson of Reds former Reds first baseman Lee May. What was his first name? Drafted by the White Sox. He did make the big leagues a couple of years ago.
Yep, he did.
He was a 3rd round pick. Yeah.
The names. John Connor, who was aka the Terminator, fullback in the NFL. He played for UK. He lived on he grew up on our street. He was younger than us.
That's right. I didn't know him, but you told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think he's retired. He's retired now, I think. But I mean,
he is. The most I ever got was an offer to play Division III football at Hanover College, which there was less students there than Lakota High School. So I turned that down and went to OU to have some fun instead.
Yeah.
That was the end of my sports career. So anyway, other than beer league softball, which actually I have a pretty good story I could throw out from beer league softball. So,
okay. I played beer league softball too, but you're probably better than I was.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I played with guys who, were high school players, and we were playing in the, if there were 5 leagues, we were in the 3 or 4 league, like better than the church league, but not with the guys who all hit.
I always tried to get to the lowest league possible.
Yeah, right. So, and there was always like 1 or 2 on our team that had played college ball, So anyway, we were playing one year. This was probably my late 20s, early 30s, so probably like 10 to 12 years ago. So we're playing against a team, and there's a dude on their team that he's of normal height, 6 foot, right around where I was, but like definitely built, lots of tattoos, long flowing black curly hair, and we're like looking over there going like, oh man. Yeah. And start to play the game. He's out in the outfield. We hit 3 fly balls to him in the first inning, and he misjudges them all. So they move him to first base.
Oh, geez.
It's Ray Maluga, middle linebacker for the Cincinnati Bengals at the time. True story. He couldn't judge a fly ball to save his life.
He was the middle linebacker on the Bengals.
Yes.
Was it like a second
for the NFL? But I'll tell you what, in person, dude's freaking huge.
Yeah, he was like a 2nd round pick. He was a pretty. I mean, he was a pretty. He went to what, USC?
Yep, USC. He had all the all the tats and the long
He's of Samoan descent, right?
Right. Yeah. So anyway, nicest guy ever. Like I got to talk to him at first base a couple times. Super nice, great guy.
Good.
Got up to hit. He chopped the ball into the ground like he was chopping wood. Hit grounders to shortstop that were very hard hit and beat all of them out 3 times in the game. He was that fast. You would think linebacker, like he flew so fast.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting. Great guy. Talked to him at first base one time. He told me, let's see, what did he ask me? He asked me, why is it in baseball, why is it called an umpire instead of a referee?
How much did he know about baseball?
Nothing, apparently.
He's just doing it to stay in shape.
Hell of an athlete, though, I'll tell you what. But he couldn't judge a fly ball. Yeah, but really nice guy. But anyway, that was my one. Yeah, probably the best softball beer league story I got, I guess.
I played for a couple years with my first job in Cincinnati, my first post-college job when I was living in Cincinnati still. I played on the kind of like it was the lowest level that they had at Queen City Softball, which was this giant softball complex in Westchester that was torn down and replaced by a Procter and Gamble research facility.
It's an aviation. Yeah,
aviation. Sorry,
aviation.
Not Procter and Gamble.
Yep.
GE Aviation's big in Cincinnati. Yeah. So I actually coached the team the one year. I think we won 2 games out of 8. It wasn't too bad. Then my last year at the company, I didn't play, and I ended up, somebody else took over the team, and I ended up like offering to be a sub for one game, and they had moved up a league, and I was like, I don't know, man. Well, so then I show up for the game and everything, and there were only a couple of the same players that I played with. Nobody was any good, and he put me in the game at third base, and in the first inning, the guy hits a ground ball, and it I think I just missed it completely. And then the next batter comes up, does something, whatever. Then the third batter comes up, hits a ground ball to third base. And I think I got my glove on it, but it ricocheted into the outfield. Then the next guy comes up. They were specifically trying to hit the ball to third base.
Right.
And so then I made it through the inning. I think I managed to catch one of them and get a force out at third. So then they stopped doing it after. I was like, wait a second, we should probably actually try to hit the ball farther.
So every time they hit one to you and you messed it up, did they yell from the dugout, got him? That used to piss me off when you miss one.
Something. I don't know, man. I was just kind of psyched out. Anyway, I did end up going to play.
You keep hitting at them because they're psyched out. Exactly.
I did end up playing some more when I moved to Portland, but I was always playing in the outfield. And anyway, but then the best part is I got up to bat and I managed to get a hit, which I felt pretty good about. And I think I got to second base, and I look over, I get to second base. I ran as hard as I could because I'm like, I'm not getting forced at second. I managed to make it to second base, and I look over, and playing shortstop for the other team was a guy that I had known. We had played youth baseball together, and he's like, Scotty, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, hi, man. I recognized him. I was like, did you see what happened? He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I don't think you're going to see me again after this, just so you know. So then after that inning, I go in to play the field again, and the guy's like, why don't you catch? Which in softball, that's the catcher is, right. I mean, all you got to do is just sit there with your glove. So I caught the rest of the game, and then never played for that team again. Hey, I got a hit, damn it. Yeah. I was doing my Eugenio Suarez impression. What can I say? Oh,
your early Edwin Encarnacion impression.
Yeah, we are going to talk about our Cincinnati Reds here in a little bit. Oh
yeah, definitely.
So, all right, so we covered it. Anyway, the long and short of it is that you ended up coming to OU, and I'm not. You'd have to tell me why you selected it. I don't remember trying to sell it to you. I was already there.
Well, sir. I believe I visited you a whole lot on Sibs weekend.
You did visit me, yeah. But I didn't say you need to come here. I was just like visiting because
But I mean, our parents met at OU, and
in
I can say here
1968.
because I'm literally in Athens right now because I live here. Life is
It
awesome.
has come full circle for you. We were going to get to that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, they loved it. You went there. I had a great time when I would visit. Why would I not want to go there? Plus, I had several of my good friends going there. I mean,
Yeah. You
right.
had a whole posse that came with you. When I went there, only 7 kids from my graduating class went to OU that year, and I didn't know any of them that well, a couple maybe. You brought a whole group of your friends with you, and like
I didn't bring
then
them. They just chose, but I knew
yeah,
I was going there. I mean, let's just say, so I used to play intramural basketball in the summers, like early high school, and I used to always wear OU gear. And that was back when Gary Trent was around. If you remember him, he got
Gary
selected
Trent.
by the Portland Trailblazers. And
Yeah.
so literally my
Now his
nickname
son is an NBA player. Yeah.
in that league was Shaq of the Mac. I mean, everybody knew I was going to OU from the time I was probably like, I don't know, 16, I don't know, 15.
Okay.
So
Well, I didn't realize you already had your mind made up at that point. Now, you
yeah,
didn't really talk about it that way.
yeah.
I mean, I was kind of in a bubble. So, that's how Athens was. I didn't really, pay a lot of attention to you or Kurt when I was in college.
That's
So,
right.
but, so so then I find out you're coming to OU, and, then you bring all these friends from Lakota with you. I mean, or they came to, I'm
Yeah,
not.
I didn't
Okay.
necessarily,
And
but
so
yeah.
then next thing I know, you guys are all joining the fraternity that I'm in, which is its whole story. I mean, I don't want to spend the whole a bunch of time telling the whole story about how I ended up in a fraternity, even though I'm very clearly, as you could probably pick up from listening to me talk, like it was not your stereotypical fraternity sort of person.
Yeah, but that wasn't like your stereotypical fraternity
No, it
either. I mean,
wasn't. It was a very singular situation that involved some friends of mine that were in it, and next thing, and it was just like, why not? And it was a little bit like a parallel to when you're a sports kid in high school and you're like, I'm going to do the theater because I want to do it. And I was in all these other things and at OU, and I was big into the radio station and everything, and those weren't fraternity and sorority people. And when I went and did that, I got a lot of flack. I lived with 5 other people for the last 2 years of my undergrad. None of them were in fraternities or sororities, and they all thought I was ridiculous. And yeah. And I mean, it wasn't like it was hard to live, but I mean, it was swimming upstream, a little bit. And so, anyway, then, so you guys are all joining the fraternity. And that just happened. And I'm like, wow. And, there was like 10 of you in the pledge class. I had been a pledge class of 1, which was weird. It was weird. And honestly, it kind of sucked. And after it was over, I had a couple of the brothers were like, we thought you were going to quit, man, because you did not seem into this. And I was like, well, I wasn't. But I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I made it through. So
I was selected pledge class president, and I remember that put the onus on me for that class with all the older guys, and I didn't like that much. I kind of pledging's not all that much fun, but
no, it's not.
I will say that there was no major hazing or anything, which was good, because you hear stories about some of that stuff with fraternities, but like our fraternity really never did a lot of that stuff, which was good.
Well, I got some. It wasn't anything really, really awful. If it was something really awful,
like
I would have
dumpling or something or whatever.
Well, no, I mean, I had to scrub a floor with a toothbrush and a couple other things. It wasn't like if it would have been anything.
The other ones at OU, oh my gosh, back then there was some bad stuff.
If it had been anything really, really awful, I would have walked away, honestly.
Yeah,
right. And it would have been awkward, believe me. It's like, okay, well, my two closest friends at the university are brothers, and what am I there was some stuff that they probably, like, as when I became an active, I was like, I'm not doing this thing. I'm not doing these things. And I didn't. So, I mean, I said a lot of shit. I would run my mouth and be a dick, but I did not, like, do things, so I'm good at that.
I remember getting yelled at for not memorizing the founding fathers fast enough or something, and then getting yelled at more for not reacting to the yelling. And my response was, I've had football coaches yell at me way worse than that, man. That didn't go over well.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Right. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing you could, as you well know, there was nothing you could have done correctly. It would have never been correct. Also, like a lot of football coaches.
Right.
But so, yeah, I mean, I had a feeling I wasn't going to stay big into the fraternity stuff. Like I wasn't going to be the guy who was going to come back every single year and go to the Founders Day or anything like that. I mean, I just,
not many do.
I still have, I still have warmth for everybody that, was in the fraternity with me. It's just.
Did make some good lifelong friends. For instance, I just got back from a spring training trip in Arizona with several.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Including one of my buddies from high school that we went to OU together and we're finals together. Josh.
That's right. I'm a little jealous of this trip. Why don't we talk about the trip now? Because
it's fresh on my mind. I just got
and then
back.
we'll talk about the shitty things that our team has been doing.
Snow in Ohio. I have a little bit of a tan, as tan as my whiteness can get, but
yeah, I don't really have a tan. This is just the yellowish light in this room. So I'm actually really pale as well.
So I'd never been to Arizona before. First time out there for spring training. I think once I'd been to Florida spring training some years back. The humidity was awful. I remember.
Yeah.
Arizona spring training was really cool.
We went to a couple of games when we were on vacation as a family.
Yep. Yeah.
We did go to a couple of games.
Yeah, this was a bachelor party for one of our fraternity brothers who is probably one of the last ones in our group to kind of get married. And so I decided, what? I've never been out there. This is probably the last bachelor party I'll ever get to go to until maybe like son gets married.
There's not a lot of bachelor parties for second marriages, are there?
No, exactly. You don't get it. Right. And it had been, it's been 2 years since I've really gone and done that much thanks to COVID. So, I've had been jabbed several times and and it was awesome. And we went to spring training. We went to Goodyear. We saw the Reds beat the A's. I saw one of their backup catchers. What was his name? Aramis Garcia hit 2 bombs.
He had a grand slam and something else.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Votto, India, Stevenson were all benched. The tickets we had for the first night got canceled on the 17th because of the lockout. They didn't resume until the 19th. So I think we saw game 2. So all the starters were in game 1 and then they took the night off. But I did get to see Moose play. I saw Moose. Moose's wife was sitting right down in front of us with her kid and their nanny, I think. So that was interesting. Yeah, but it was awesome out there. I'll tell you what, if anybody wants to go out and see some good baseball, spring training in Arizona was really fun. I got a hat, despite not really wanting to give Bob Castellini any money while he trades off all the Reds' best players. But I got some helmet nachos. The helmet's over there.
That's is that the large size?
Yeah, a couple of those. We crushed a couple of those with like buffalo chicken nachos or whatever in them. But yeah, I try not to give Bob too much cash since he's trading everybody off lately. But I've got a signed Sonny Gray baseball up there. What good's that do me now?
Where did you get that?
A couple of years ago, they do an auction where they sell signed blind bag balls, and I bought 3. And I got a Sonny Gray, a Josh Van Meter. What was the other one? I got to look. I've got them up here in my Reds memorabilia cabinet, which I actually keep up here at all times. Oh yeah, Raisel Iglesias also traded.
Oh wow. Okay.
I got a Iglesias, a Sonny Gray, a Josh Van Meter, and they threw in an extra one, which is funny. Leon Hall, former cornerback of the Bengals. I don't know why he's signing baseballs, but they threw that in free.
Leon Hall. He made the Pro Bowl at least once. He was pretty good.
Yeah. So anyway, but so yeah, spring training was awesome. It was a good time.
Wow.
Also saw Andrew Dice Clay at a casino on the reservation out there for a comedy show. He's like almost 70 years old and still doing the same shtick in the same costume or get up. It was pretty awesome. I mean, if you can handle content. Actually, the female that was on before him was funnier. She had the same shtick going. She was pretty good, but
she had the same shtick as Andrew Dice Clay.
Yes. she had been traveling with him through his heyday and knew him from way back when, and was basically running the same shtick from a female angle, and it was funnier, to be honest.
Wow.
I
Okay.
can't remember the name. I'd have to look it up, but she was funny.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Very irreverent,
what?
Very irreverent.
Yeah. It sounds like a great trip. I made my only trip to Arizona was before it was my own bachelor party, and we went and saw WrestleMania 26, which is at the the Arizona Cardinals Stadium, and my friends took me to a couple of terrible, awful strip clubs.
Yeah.
There was one that was just a big open room with a bunch of chairs. That's all it was. And like the girls, like, you're in your chair and the girl like comes over and climbs on the arms of the chair. And I was like, and I'm like in the chair and she's like, try to relax. I'm like,
yeah, no, I cannot say I'm not a strip club person. We went once.
I'm not either, but
The Bachelor, I bought a couple dances for him, but I'm usually the guy in the corner with a drink and my legs crossed. Cause I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. I don't know. I love women. I'm also married. I was trying not to be too disrespectful. The strip clubs are, maybe for younger me.
Yeah, I just don't like the atmosphere. It just doesn't.
Yeah,
it's not.
Sleazy.
I mean, my wife and I in Portland, couples go to strip clubs all the time, and we went.
I could do that.
I went and had a pretty good steak at one once. There's one that's painted like a circus tent in Southeast Portland called the Acropolis, and it's called their tagline is Steak Plus. Nice. And you go in there and you get the steak, and it's like grass fed, whatever, and then there's the pole,
right?
And so yeah. We did not see any baseball games when
no.
I
was really thinking we were not going to, thanks to all the labor talks. I mean, when I booked it, I knew that the CBA was coming up, and I knew there was a good chance that we were going to get screwed. A lot of those guys like to play golf too. March Madness was on, St. Patrick's Day was on when we were there, so we went and hit bars there. There's a lot of breweries there too, so a lot of stuff to do. But I was really happy that they finally got through that negotiation, so we were able to see some games. But I think when you went out there, they probably didn't even have spring training out there, did they? Or it was much smaller. The Reds
it was 2010. When did the Reds move to Goodyear?
Oh, I can't remember. Maybe they were out there.
I don't want to. I have a strict no research policy with this show. So, but it's if they were there, I'm not sure why we did. I don't know. It was really just a long weekend. It was like 4 days. We got an Airbnb, or well, it wasn't an. I guess it was an Airbnb. Excuse me. But I think, I think I remember maybe looking to see, because that's the best part about Arizona spring training is that you can, from Phoenix, you can get in 30 or 40 minutes, you can get to any of the facilities.
Right. We were in Scottsdale, but yeah, we were real close.
I was in like the Phoenix suburbs and everything
was. Yeah, it's right. Yeah, it's a suburb of Phoenix. I mean, I was hoping on the Reds were going to be in Scottsdale to play the Snakes, and I was going to go to that game, but it got canceled because of the negotiations. So we ended up going out to Goodyear to see the Reds out there where they have their facility, which not too far of a drive, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but
yeah. And I don't remember why we didn't go to a game. I think the timing just didn't work out with the other things that they wanted to do, and it wasn't. I didn't have much time, so. Yeah. But I want to go. I want to go and take the family and make that like the vacation.
Yeah. I actually would like to do that too. It was pretty nice out there. I mean, a lot of sun. Weather was nice. Not a lot of grass.
No.
Rocks in the front yard with cactuses.
Yes.
Every house looks like the Alamo. It's pretty cool.
I did notice that they don't have only the rich people have lawns in Arizona. Instead, you have a bunch of rocks in your front yard, and then you have to go out and get the weed. Oh man. And it's like, well, you don't need a mower, but it looks strange. And I did see some of that.
There was a park near. I took a walk with Roberts one day to just to get some exercise, and there was a park nearby that and we walked through it, and all the grass was like yellow and dead, and like so crispy it was like walking on plastic. It was pretty funny. Yeah, but this still was pretty cool. Nice weather, nice and humid and arid though, but not like the humid, or not humid. It was more arid, and that dry heat, which was pretty cool.
I don't know if I'd want to live there, but yeah.
The other cool thing about Arizona, there's a lot of liquor stores. There's also dispensaries too, if you're into the recreational stuff, which was cool. But there's,
I don't remember if that was a thing 10 years ago.
Probably not in 2010. But anyway,
it wasn't even legal in Oregon in 2010. I mean,
a lot of cheap liquor stores, and several of us are big bourbon fans. So for my job, I work in Kentucky a lot and gotten into bourbon and whatnot. And we found several really nice bottles of bourbon out there, priced at retail price that you literally can't find anywhere around Kentucky or Ohio. And if you can, you're paying multiples of the price for it, which was pretty cool.
Wow, cool, great.
Yeah,
I do remember there being a lot of drive-through. You could buy hard liquor via drive-through.
A lot of bodega type liquor stores on every other corner. It was like gas station, convenience store / liquor store. So we'd go in and scan the bourbon real quick and see if we could find like a Eagle Rare for $40, or searching for something good. But it was nice out there. I'd go out again for sure.
Yeah.
We should, if we're talking Reds though, we should throw it back to 1990. I mean, that's pretty much like my love for baseball was crystallized, right? So like really it was 1989, the Bengals Super Bowl. They blew it, right? The touchdown at the end, was it Montana to Taylor, I believe.
John Taylor.
Broke my heart when I was like 9. I remember
the guy who played on the other side of the field from Jerry Rice.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
I can still picture that touchdown. There was no time left on the clock. Everybody was like super intense. Like I got to stay up late for the Super Bowl party, and then they lost. I remember crying.
Right.
I was 9 years old. The next year, the Reds came back out of nowhere, wire to wire, first place in their division, and then taking on the Bash Brothers, who I had a poster of Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco in my room at the time.
They were the best team in baseball.
Sports Illustrated
Oakland was.
Kids. Yeah, and we freaking swept them. And ever since then, I mean, obviously I was into baseball already. I collected baseball cards and played Little League. But from that point on was when I really became an insane baseball fan, really, thanks to the 1990 Reds. So,
yeah, I think mine was cinched in before that. I mean, I think I went to my first game in the 100 loss season of 1982, and we left in the 7th inning because it was too loud in the stadium for me at the time. My dad's like, I mean, you can't expect a 5-6-year-old to make through it, but I mean, it was.
You're there for the snacks, really. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's too loud.
He's there for the Dippin' Dots and the.
Yeah, my son really just loves hanging out with his older cousin and getting. So, but he wants to go again this year, and we'll go. We'll drive down and go, and tickets probably won't be as expensive as they were last year. No, so we're going to get to that. So I probably got cinched in the mid 80s. Pete Rose comes back to be the player manager in 1984. My dad, our dad went to that game, and came back with a certificate that said I was there when Pete Rose returned to be player manager of the Cincinnati Reds, August 17, 1984.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it's in my closet at their house.
Cool.
And I was just there this past weekend, and I couldn't find my baseball card. I couldn't find the good ones, and it was freaking me out.
I sold them all. No, I'm just kidding.
You better have sold my 58 mantle, buddy. It was an all-star, but still.
I swear. I did find my 80 Ricky Henderson rookie the other day, though, which was nice.
That's good. Yeah. Dad bought an entire garbage bag full of baseball cards from the daughter of one of his employees, one of his dental assistants. And
that was awesome.
There was a Ricky Henderson 80 tops and a Wade Boggs, it's a Cal Ripken 82 tops rookie there
were two Cal Ripken rookies. Those were the future prospect cards. I have one.
Right.
You have one. You got the Wade Boggs.
Yeah, it was a Wade Boggs top.
You got the mantle, 56 mantle. I got the 80.
Well, the mantle wasn't in the bag, though.
It wasn't? Oh, okay.
No. I acquired that on my own.
A lot of other cool stuff. I've actually, during the last year or so, I've spent a lot of time actually digging through those cards and cataloging them. They were mostly Not
older
yours,
than the ones.
I promise. I didn't touch yours.
I started collecting
at Mom and Dad's.
Right. I started collecting in 83. So, and most of those cards.
I've literally got stacks of them right here in front of me. Here's a 1987 Nolan Ryan wooden border.
There. Most of the cards were from before I started collecting in 80. I started collecting in 83. And
yeah, there's a lot of commons going back into a lot
80,
of like
81,
70s,
82.
early 80s. There's some even into the 60s. Yeah.
Really? Okay, I don't remember the 60s.
Yeah, I've been stacking them.
They were all in rubber banded in stacks by team.
Yeah.
And I remember we looked through and we're like, Dad, there's all these great cards. I was like, did you pay a lot of money for this?
Yeah,
and
I don't think I'm getting any of these graded.
And he goes, I paid $40. And I was like, well, good deal, Dad. I mean, the Henderson was worth more than that on its own. It wasn't in pristine condition. But
it's still worth like what it was when I was a kid. It hasn't really gone anywhere.
Yeah. But none of the cards from with only a few exceptions, pretty much every baseball card made after 1980 has been flat in value for 30 years.
Which is interesting because right now the baseball card market is insane, but those
yes, but not for those cards.
What do they call it?
Yeah. I mean, it's
wax era was not so good. Like one that I bought boxes of was 1990 Don Russ, the red with the little like
yes, black. I have a boatload.
So many misprints in that set, but I have a shitload of those.
And the whole set, I tried to collate a set by hand of those, and I got down to maybe 15. I had maybe 15 of them I didn't have, and the whole set I think is worth maybe $20 now, $25 maybe. That was what it was worth then too. Yeah. And yeah, I found a big box of cards that were all like a bunch of commons and stuff, but I didn't find the cards that were in the hard protectors and the mantle, which was in like one of those like screw frames.
I definitely don't have them.
Okay, well, I didn't accuse you of taking.
I got all mine out of my closet, and I've been sorting through them, but they're definitely all mine. It was my half of that box from the garage sale, and then all my 1987 to 1993, period of cards when I collected hardcore. Yeah.
So
I think Kurt has your Eric Davis set. Maybe
he does. I saw it. Yeah. I didn't realize that it was kept intact. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he still has it. Don't you have a signed Barry Larkin rookie, by the way? 86 Don Russ?
87 Don Russ. Yeah.
87? Okay. Uh-huh. That's a good one.
My friend Brian had an Eric Davis signed rookie. But he was my favorite player. And I collected about 60 or 70 different cards of his in a little binder. I don't know why I gave it to Kurt, but I did.
Hey, we should do a Remember Some Guys from the 1990s Reds team.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
I'm no David Roth, but that's his name, right? Yeah. The guy who does Remember Some Guys.
So you'll go Eric Davis with your first pick, right? I will. Let's see. How about like I was telling you before this, before that we started recording, I was watching the MLB Network. It was the Yankees versus Pirates spring training, and the Yankees now have Paul O'Neill as an announcer, which hits me right like a dagger in the heart.
Right.
Like
Paul O'Neill for Roberto Kelly.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites back in the day, and I was so hurt. And I was in an age when I didn't understand the baseball side of or the business side of baseball. Mm-hmm. And when the Reds traded Paul O'Neill for Roberto Kelly to the Yankees, I was fucking pissed.
Roberto Kelly was pretty decent. He wasn't a bad player, but he didn't stay in Cincinnati very long.
Yeah,
it was like half a season.
Didn't work out for us. I mean, but yeah, Paul O'Neill was on the broadcast talking about how the first game that he ever played in, his name was spelled wrong on the back of his jersey, but he went 4 for 4. And Bernie Stowe was the clubhouse manager. His son, I think his son just retired maybe, or is still the clubhouse manager. So I mean,
Bernie Stowe's dead now, but
the Reds has been handled for 40 years by the Stowe family, probably more. I'm just guessing.
It's like 50.
But anyway. So anyway, Stowe told him, "Oh, we got to get your name spelled right. You're too good to be having it spelled wrong on the back of your jersey or whatever." And O'Neill is like, "No, I want to leave it how it is. I got 4 hits." But anyway, he was talking about Chris Sabo had a locker next to him or whatever. It was pretty interesting to hear. I'm watching a Yankees game. I was actually watching it because I wanted to see O'Neill Cruz, Pittsburgh shortstop. But
oh yeah, O'Neill. Okay, O'Neill. Yeah, different guy. All right, cool.
But anyway. Different O'Neill.
The world's only 6'6" shortstop, right?
I know. 6'5". And like when they're showing the camera in spring training, the cameras are a little different, and they're showing the camera from deep in center field all the way in. And Cruz is so tall. When he was there was a guy in second. He's coming over to like do the old fake. He couldn't even see the top of his head because he's like 6'6" shortstop.
Yeah.
But anyway, Paul
That's
O'Neill,
he's not gonna stay at shortstop.
Yeah, well,
I'm surprised they're even trying. I mean, it's fine. He's going to end up right field, third base.
Well, what other good prospects do they have? They'll probably package him with 2 more really good prospects and get like an aging pitcher from the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, right. Because they're going to go for it.
Chris Archer
They're
trade,
going to go for fourth place, right? Yeah.
Well, Chris Archer. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'd like Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow and Shane Baz back at this point.
The final indignity was when Archer then signed with the Rays again.
Right. He went there, sucked ass for a couple of years, and then was like, "I'm going back."
Oh, geez. Oh man. Yeah. So, I mean, we can be mad about the trades that our team makes sometimes, where they, and I know they would have done the things that they just did over the last few weeks. They would have done them in December if there wasn't a lockout, I think. But the timing is just, the optics of it are just terrible. Doing things 2 weeks before the season, you're trading Jesse Winker and Suarez and
that one's the one that really pains me. I can understand some of the other moves. Well, the Wade Miley thing was just stupid, in my opinion. As a GM, they could have gotten some more value out of that. And then the fact that they turn around and trade Amar Garrett and pick up a similar deal with Mike Minor, who's a way worse pitcher than Miley. I'm like, why don't you just cut Amar Garrett if you don't like him? I mean, I like Amar Garrett, but like, if you don't want him, just cut him. Don't pick up Mike Minor and keep the Miley option. Much better team, same price. Stupid. But anyway,
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
well,
the one that hurt was Winker, man. I love Winker. That dude's awesome. I know he's not necessarily an all-around a well-rounded player, but when you love
he hits right-handed pitching really, really well and doesn't really do anything else well.
But I love his attitude too. The guy, he's like Votto. He likes to troll the fans. I don't know. He's just a great guy.
He does this neat elbow hitch thing that is kind of fun to watch.
Oh, and if anybody is an Instagrammer, Joey Votto is now on social media, and his few posts he's added are gold. He's hilarious.
He's pretty funny.
In fact, he just posted one. I think it was, he said him and Alex Wood, former Red Alex Wood, had a chat before their game recently. And Wood told him, if I strike you out, you have to follow me on Instagram. And so they show the video of Votto getting struck out by Wood in the game.
Oh, geez.
You see Votto, it's like a screenshot of his account, and he goes and he searches Alex Wood, and Alex Wood's following him, and he goes, and you're like, think he's going to hit the follow button, and he hits the unfriend or whatever, and he kicks Alex Wood off of his feed. Total Votto.
I got to go watch that. That sounds great. I saw a little opening video where he's like kind of doing this like little awkward.
Oh yeah. And then he says, I'll post all my food stuff. And then he goes, never. I'll never do that.
The food, right.
Votto. As you can see, I got a lot of love at spring training wearing this there. Joey Votto.
Yeah. He, it's, I'm glad. Yeah. So I just, I understand that they needed to cut down on the payroll. Okay. So even though all these owners can afford, $100 million payrolls, and they just some of them choose not to. The Miley thing was embarrassing. I don't mind that they traded Tucker Barnhart.
I understand the Tucker Barnhart move. Tyler Stevenson's right there. I get it. That one.
Sonny Gray was, he has, they traded him for a guy. He's basically a lottery ticket. Chase Petty is an 18-year-old pitcher who threw 102 in high school, who has terrible but depending on what you read, the mechanics are iffy. So he's the kind of guy, he's a candidate for Tommy John surgery in a couple of years. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but he could be an ace pitcher, or he could be wash out in AA. Right.
Right.
So that's, yeah. And then
Nuke Lelouch.
Right. Nuke Lelouch. But it's the trade where suddenly trade. What's that?
The Winker Suarez trade, which I like Williamson, but I'm not a big Dunn and Fraley. I don't know. Well, we'll see.
Well, it's, Winker, for all the value he adds to the bat, he gives back some with the glove, gives back some. So you're talking about 2 years of Winker and 3 years of Suarez.
Yeah.
And you're getting a top 100 prospect in Williamson. You're getting a former first round draft pick in Justin Dunn, who before he hurt his shoulder.
Yankees prospect, wasn't he? Didn't he come over?
He's Mets. I think he came over in the Edwin Diaz
and Robinson. No, yeah,
where the Mets way overpaid for Edwin Diaz. Right. Okay. Yeah. Dunn actually pitched pretty well. He walks too many people, but he pitched pretty well last year. And then he hurt his shoulder, didn't pitch again after midseason, is still hurt.
Yeah.
and is
Right.
going to be hurt for several more months. Reds were like, sure, whatever, that's
Pretty
fine.
funny. So it's funny. You think about it. Like, okay, so the Reds were
That
gonna
I
trade.
would not have done.
The Reds were gonna trade Sonny Gray or Luis Castillo or Tyler Mahle. Right. We all knew one of those was probably going to get traded this
Well, Gray is
offseason.
the one you want to trade. Yeah.
Right. Well, I always thought it was going to be Castillo.
Yeah,
But
he'd have the most value,
out
but
for the beginning of the season because he's injured, and no one would probably take him when he was injured. But it's just funny that on the other flip side, we're like, sure, give us your injured pitcher, like we'll take Dunn. Just like,
yeah. And
Nick
Fraley
Martin.
seems like just a guy. I mean,
Yeah, no power whatsoever. I mean, OBP, sure.
he slugged okay in the PCL, but everybody
Well,
does
who
that.
doesn't?
So
Yeah, I could go
right.
hit some homers there. I mean, shit.
So I mean, it's just that was a little bit depressing. The trade that it reminded me of was the one they made in, I can't remember which year it was. Castellini had taken over as owner, though. So it was post Carl Lindner. It was in the late mid 2000s, and they traded in the middle of the year to the Nationals, Felipe Lopez and Austin Kearns, who were both starters in the lineup. Lopez had had a great year the year before, but had dropped off some. Kearns was kind of this, big time prospect who never really had a full season that was really great, right?
I have my
I mean,
own
he
theory.
played. He's stuck in the league for 10 some years, but
Well, if you remember, there was that big thing about him being overweight. Like he had been hanging out with Adam Dunn too much.
Yeah.
And,
I
they were
mean,
eating burgers and having fun, not really working hard.
Right. And Dunn, of course, Dunn could roll out of bed and hit homers. I mean, that's what he did. The guy hit 400 and some home runs in his career. I mean, that's what he was born to do. And
he's a softball player. But anyway,
yeah, but he had a lot of his best.
He was
had
a
all
University of Texas Longhorns quarterback, but yet he couldn't throw anybody out from the outfield because he didn't condition his arm whatsoever as a professional.
Yeah, that was weird. That was weird that he was a college quarterback who
didn't work hard at all. He could hit taters, and that was it. And he got paid.
Who had a 40 arm. It's weird.
Better. He could have been so much better. But anyway.
Yeah, but he was a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, he was the only guy we had when they were awful for like a decade. So, at least you could get on some highlight shows because he hit a 514-foot home run when we were down 8-1.
Right. So Lopez and Kearns to the Nationals for relievers Bill Bray, Gary Majeski, shortstop Royce Clayton, who was an aging veteran, a prospect named Darrell Thompson, who only pitched a few innings in the big leagues. And there was a fifth guy, and I can't remember who it was. And
Bill Bray got injured too, right? Didn't he?
Bill Bray was always injured. Yeah, he did pitch for a while, but he was always injured. Majeski was horrible and got injured. Majeski had been a pretty good relief pitcher, but did not. Anyway, they traded two starters out of their starting lineup because they needed help in the bullpen, and they got a couple of seventh inning guys. And it was a terrible trade, and it pretty much tanked the season. And I don't think it was made for payroll reasons, but it was the same kind of trade structurally. I mean, in this trade, at least we traded and got a blue chip pitching prospect.
Yeah, I'm liking Williamson. I think that could be cool.
You can't help but think, they did go out and sign some free agents. I mean, I'm not going to be, I'm happy that they brought in anybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
Tommy Pham.
Who was, of course, a Cardinal, which, the Cardinals are the forces of evil pretty much.
And no stranger to strip clubs either, apparently.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he survived that stabbing. Yeah. Oh, geez.
Yeah, unfortunately for him.
Yeah. He was pretty.
He could be a good piece that we could trade mid-season if things don't go well. So
yeah. Donovan's
a lot of guys like that free agent, like the low dollar free agents that have at least a glimmer of hope that could turn into a gold nugget.
Yeah. I mean, I think, Donovan Solano, Colin Moran, these guys, they're all at least legitimate big leaguers.
Yeah. Colin Moran. I'm not liking that one personally.
I mean, he got non-tendered by the Pirates, right?
Right after he was the guy who was posterized on Javi Baez, who I hate, by the way, Javi Baez, but, where that play where he deep.
Sorry, Drew. Yeah.
Him back down the line instead of throwing it to first for the easy out. That was Colin Moran that did that, and he got DFA. I think he got released by the Pirates right
No. That was it was a rookie, some rookie player.
I thought it was Moran.
No. It was the guy because there was a story about him in the Athletic. What was his name? It wasn't Colin Moran.
That's
I
all
don't
right.
mean to be
I
that
have an
guy.
athletic subscription, but I don't read pirate stuff.
Yeah. The
Unless it's a
guy,
story about Amar Garrett trying to fight the whole team, or Yasiel Puig. Either one.
well, the theory on the Reds message board was that Tommy Pham was now the guy who can fight all the pirates instead of Amir Garrett. So
we need a guy.
Yeah, I I'm sad to see Garrett go as well. I understand he had a really rough 2021, but he has a lot of talent.
I met him one time. He was pretty nice. It was at Reds Fest back when he was a prospect, and he was at the area where all the kids were playing basketball. And he played basketball at St. John's, pretty big time college basketball before he got into baseball. And he was sitting here like dunking and shooting, and like people didn't know who he was, but I actually did. It was pretty interesting. He was a nice guy.
Yeah. When he first came up with the Reds, he had a horrible run as a starter with like a 7 or an 8 ERA. And I mean, he had his lumps, and, he actually only really had maybe 2 good seasons. But he was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
He had problems with control. What he would do is he'd have problems getting the ball over the plate. And then when he would get it over the plate, the guy'd hit it out of the ballpark. And there's a lot of walks and homers. I don't know. It was, but he, I heard a couple podcasts with him, and he talked about, there was one that came out after he was quoted saying some really great stuff, after the George Floyd situation. And it was, he seemed like a really great guy. And I understand fighting the Pirates and getting suspended for a whole bunch of games is kind of not a great team thing, but between that and the Yasiel Puig trying to fight the Pirates anyway.
We've had our dust ups with the Cardinals too. You remember some years back when the team got into it with was Cueto and
yes,
and
yes, Cueto kicked Jason LaRue, who was a Red, who had gone to the Cardinals. He was a longtime Red.
Yeah.
Kicked him in the head with his spikes.
Yeah. You've seen the replay though. I mean, he was being like backed into a wall and pushed over the wall, and he was kicking, but
yeah. That was not a good look. Let's face it.
No, it was not.
Yeah.
But then last year, for instance, we couldn't even get a fight started because like Castellanos scores a run and stands over the Cardinals pitcher and flexes once and gets friggin' thrown out of the game and fined for it. So
and suspended.
Yeah, because I guess
3 games.
Yeah, that's right. Suspended. That's right.
I like that guy. Castellanos is fun, and
I like him. I picked him up in this league and paid a lot for him, and then after he opted out going into this year, I then again picked him up as a free agent.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's just demoralizing to watch this happen right before the season starts. I mean, if you accept that some of these trades had to happen, that's fine. But, it's also, they say tanking is what's hurting baseball's attendance because only 10 or 12 teams at a time are trying to win as many games as possible. Everybody else is either tanking or in some sort of middle zone, like the Guardians are, right? Where they kind of just never really go for it, but they always have some talent. Or they're like, not everybody's a sad sack like the Pirates, or the Orioles or somebody. But and so tearing down a team that made the playoffs by the skin of their teeth in 2020. I mean, they went 31-29 and squeezed into the last spot on the last day of the season.
It was pretty cool how they did, though.
It was. And then, of course, it was incredibly demoralizing after that. But
right.
It was not as demoralizing as the first time. Was it 2009 when they made the playoffs? They won the division, made the playoffs, and then Roy Halladay threw a perfect game.
That's right.
Or a no-hit. Was it a no-hitter or a perfect game?
I can't remember.
That was worse. And they got swept in that series.
It was a 3. We only played a couple of games, and I think
right.
Cliff Lee messed us up another game too, if I remember.
The Phillies kicked our butts in 3 straight games, and Roy Halladay threw a perfect game in the first. That was worse.
Wasn't there also a game? Was it a play into the playoffs game where we played? Was it the Mets and Al Leiter threw a freaking gem?
That was 99. Yeah, that was the 1-game playoff. They had blown a couple games at the end of the year. had this Cinderella run, blew a couple games at the end of the year, had to do this playoff, and Al Leiter came in and just buzzsawed him. Yeah.
Yep. Just like when we played the Braves a couple of years ago. Yeah. And we scored, 0 runs in 2 games out of 3.
Right.
And
0 runs.
Bauer threw a great game.
And then there was the other divisional series, the one where I bought a plane ticket and flew from Oregon to see the game. And we went to the game, and they had.
Oh, was that the Cueto game where he dropped the ball? Or no, that was in Pittsburgh.
No. That was against the Pirates. No, this was the Giants when we win the first 2 games on the road, and then they beat us 3 in a row in Cincinnati. And we went to the game where Scott Rowland made an error to lose a game in the 10th inning.
Yeah, which he never made errors.
No, and Homer Bailey had pitched well. It was very weird to see him pitch well because
we grew up with Homer Bailey, always being the number 1 guy that was going to be our future ace, but he sucked until after we got rid of him, and he had a couple of decent years with the Royals or something.
He did have a couple of good years with the Reds, but he was always so up and down. And they signed him they gave these big deals to Devin Mesoraco and Homer Bailey. And Devin Mesoraco was basically
Homer Bailey threw a no-hitter, right?
He threw 2
no-hitters. That's right. I forgot he threw 2 no-hitters. But God, that guy's fastball was pre-spin rate, or I feel like he had the straightest fastball ever. I don't know.
They gave all the contract extensions to the wrong people. With Mesoraco, who had a big year, made the All-Star team, and then got hurt and was never the same. And Bailey was hurt and terrible for all of those 4 years where they were paying him. And when you're a small market team like that, you can't afford to make those kind of mistakes. You have to hit on all those free agent contracts. And, that's why it was sad to watch what's happened to Suarez. They gave him a 7-year deal. It was like, wow, this is going to be a great deal. He's going to be an all-star.
Everybody was pumped about that deal when they made it. It was like, wow,
he's going to make 3 or 4 all-star teams. He's going to be great.
He hit 49 bombs the 1 year. He was doing real, and then he just fell off the table. He hit 150 last year. It was ugly.
He went on a big streak in September and got up to like 197 or 199. Seattle is not where you go
to trade value.
Yeah, Seattle is not usually where you go to fix your bat problems. Watching him swing late on fastballs through all of last year was kind of rough.
I will say,
obviously he would hit enough of them. He hit 31 homers, but
he did.
I don't think that he's going to wash out of baseball. I think he's going to stick around, but I don't think he's going to hit 49 homers again. It doesn't seem. Somebody's going to have to remake his swing or something. It's gotten slower.
They could. Yeah.
He had a thumb or a wrist injury. He broke his wrist in his swimming pool in his house, and that threw him, wrist or thumb injuries for a hitter can really screw you up. He had broken his thumb a couple years before that. Remember, he got hit by a pitch, broke his thumb, and then came back in like 2 weeks and kept on slugging.
That's right. He did. Yeah.
It was really weird. So he's broken his thumb and his wrist.
He's supposed to be one of the best clubhouse guys. Yeah. Freaking Votto loved him. I mean, everybody loved him. He was always a good attitude. Great dude. It's too bad he kind of fell off. But I mean, we stole him in a trade. You remember that trade?
Yes. For Alfredo Simon.
Shortstop that couldn't stick at shortstop, but had enough bat to play at third maybe. And Detroit wanted to move him while he still had value. And we sent them
Alfredo Simon,
who tanked after that with them.
Right. And later, a few years later, was tried for murder.
That's true. You know the story of that? What happened?
He was firing his gun in the air or something, right?
Yeah, a celebration. He was, and people firing gun in the air, and the bullet came down and killed someone, and was traced back to his gun.
He didn't go to prison for that, I don't think, though. Yeah. So, but
I mean, the Reds did make some good trades. I mean, look at the Marlins trade where we grabbed Luis Castillo. That was a great trade too. I mean, what did we send them? It was a Dan Straley. Thank you.
Yeah. Dan Straley pitched really well. We picked him up off the scrap. He pitched well. We flipped him for Luis Castillo. And Straley's back in. Yeah.
And that was after the Marlins tried to trade Castillo to the Padres on a deal that got popped back for injury, right?
Yeah. Somebody else in the deal was injured and they
were trying to get rid of Castillo. We definitely landed. I don't know why. Dude's changeup is.
We do pretty good when we make small deals like that.
Then there's the Dodgers trade that didn't work so great.
No.
Matt Kemp and
that was the right trade to make, and it just didn't work.
And Wood, who got hurt, and
Wood got hurt. Matt Kemp was terrible. Puig was okay, but
I think Matt Kemp was a money throw in, though. We took him on, I think, in that point.
yeah, but I mean, I think we thought he
But
was
we
going to
gave
play a
up
role on the team.
Josiah Gray, starting rotation for the Nationals, and Jeter Downs still prospecting for Boston, maybe.
Now Jeter Downs had a pretty bad 2021.
Yeah, I know
and he's also been traded again. The Dodgers traded him again, but the point is,
he was in the Verdugo trade, I believe, right?
Well, yeah. Josiah Gray was in the Trey Turner deal.
The Mookie Betts trade. I said Verdugo trade. It's the Mookie Betts trade.
Mookie Betts, right? So, but the fact is, we gave the Dodgers a couple of very usable assets, and of course, it's the Dodgers, so they can afford to trade all the prospects all day long.
Right. That was us pushing. We were pushing our chips all in on that trade that time. Yeah.
But that one we rolled the dice and it came up, maybe not snake eyes, but like a 1 and a 3. I mean, it was
Alex Wood thing hurt for sure. He was supposed to be a big piece of that.
On paper, I was really jazzed about that deal. I just want to say that. Yeah, I thought we're going to get a couple of
league too. We got to have the fire guy. I mean, I know he had his trouble out there, the wild horse. They couldn't control him or whatever. But in Cincinnati, we always want one guy like that. I mean, you can go through the years. You always have a guy like
Brandon
that.
Phillips,
Castellanos, Phillips, somebody with some fire. A Tommy Pham, maybe.
Yeah,
you gotta have the Reds always like to make that late addition of somebody who's going to spark the clubhouse. That seems to be their way to do it. I was pumped for Puig. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the Puig bobblehead with him riding a horse up here on the shelf.
Yep.
So here, I'll get this just a second. Where is it? Okay. There it is.
You've got quite a few bobbleheads, don't you?
I do.
Oh yeah, there's the wild.
I might as well show off the wild horse. There he is. I might as well show off my newest one that I just got yesterday, by the way. Check out Snoop Dogg.
Oh, nice.
Snoop Dogg repping Corona. Yeah. Not baseball, but I just got this. I won it.
I love it.
Anyway, I'm pretty proud of myself.
Here I have a Jay Bruce, a Chris Sabo with the Rec Specs, and a Cincinnati Reds first baseman of history, which is Joey Votto, Sean Casey.
Yep, I got that one. Yep. I have a Jay Bruce with him on the Dayton Dragons too, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Got that one off eBay. I haven't been buying them that much in the last couple of years, but I've got a pretty decent collection. I've got one of the Reds mascot sitting on the Iron Throne.
Oh yeah, a little Game of Thrones action.
Yeah. So
this year's Nasty Boys set. I used to have a Nasty Boys poster in my room when I was a kid. I always liked the Nasty Boys. Rob Dibble, he was the guy with the fire back then, man. Oof.
This year's list is a little spare. It's Tyler Stevenson is one.
Yeah.
And then there is a Votto one where he's wearing a funny costume.
Is it Star Wars or?
I think it's a Star Wars jet. It's like a Jedi Votto. Yeah.
And an old school Mr. Red, I think.
Yeah, and then I don't think there are any other current players on the list.
I feel like they held one back because they're like, we're gonna, whatever prospect ends up coming up or something, they're gonna do one, right. But they're going to see who it'll be.
They don't want the situation.
Jonathan India.
Right. Yeah. Right. Oh, you know what? Maybe there is a Jonathan India.
They should do like a Captain Jack Sparrow, Jonathan India.
Yeah, that would be cool. He kind of looks like Captain Jack Sparrow's son in college, who's kind of a bro. Yeah.
You ever hear the stories about how we ended up with him? Like why we were so,
with India
enamored with India when we had that draft pick?
No, I don't know that I heard this. I just knew that they saw him play at Florida.
Attendance when in the College World Series, and he was up against who was pitching? He was a top pitching prospect, like the number one pitching prospect at the time, was pitching for the other team, and India was playing for Miami, right?
Florida, University of Florida.
Florida, yes, right. Yeah, and I think it was like one of the first. It might have even been his first at bat, and he jacked a homer in front of our people while they were scouting off of the top pitching guy. And that was like right then they were like, we're taking him. And obviously his prospect stock fell a couple of years ago, but really bounced back last year.
He didn't really show any power. He got off to a slow start, but then I guess he was this stealth. He came on during the pandemic year at the alternate site, and the Reds did a great job of keeping it quiet.
Right.
Because, he was considered this number one prospect.
He was just a key cog last year, batting leadoff and playing every day for him. So.
But he did not impress coming out of the gate. and then suddenly he's the opening day second baseman.
He seems like a great person too. Like you see him, he's all over social media. He's a huge Bengals fan. He's been following Joe Burrow and the Bengals since they've kind of had their rebirth and everything. And like, I'm liking that, when you see somebody like, he's not from Cincinnati, but he's repping,
Yeah.
Until we trade him for spare parts in a few years.
I'm convinced that this is, because if I think back to the strike from 1994, the most common viewpoint was, oh, the players are a bunch of spoiled, overpaid babies who are being paid way too much to play a game, right? Most fans were pro ownership. Now, if you notice, most fans are pro players, pro union.
Social media is what changed that.
And I think social media is what changed it. And I may have said that in front of you before. I don't remember, but maybe you just thought about it.
I don't think so. I have the same feeling. I don't think I've heard you say that, but
so
me, more accessibility to what's behind it,
Right. Because players are getting paid way more now than they were in 1994, even accounting for inflation and stuff, but all the club owners, the billionaires, and Bob Castellini, who's only got like 800 million. He's not a billionaire.
I know. He's at the very bottom of that
He's
list.
Like one of the poorest owners.
So anyway. For work, I've actually underwritten his business, General Produce, for work. It's a produce distributor out of Georgia. So I've seen all the revenue numbers.
Okay. Yeah. But
so can't violate anything though. I'll get in trouble. I can't say anything.
Big Republican political donor too. And so, the money is not, but it has to be social media. There's no other thing, that players, you can really, you follow a guy in your Instagram or whatever, and you see, it's like, oh, look, here he is playing ball, this 2-year-old, and his blonde wife, and, or, look, here he's, here's something funny in the clubhouse, here's a, it's, and they become like someone that you can relate to a little bit more. We all have, we're all great at sports and have hot wives and beautiful children. Right. And, okay, I'm not great at sports, but I got the rest. And, and I think then the fans are like, let's see, do I root for these guys or do I root for these, these billionaires who are, trying to get me into gambling and trying to get my city's tax dollars and get free stuff, and underwrite their real estate investments that they're making as a hedge against losing any money in baseball. And cutting and trading off my team's players because they're getting expensive in arbitration. Like, I'm proud of the fans for turning around and being.
I know, right?
You do not hear that spoiled, overpaid babies thing. I did not hear that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm consuming only leftist media. I don't know. Yeah, but
sometimes they hear the millionaire versus billionaire argument, which is interesting too, because like the average salary for major league players is not that. It's funny. I just looked in the corner.
Their careers are so short though. It's not like something you can do for 50 years. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just realized it shows Blake's name under my.
It
is
does.
That showing on the thing? That's fine.
Yes.
He did this for remote school for a year, so that's the Zoom. Yeah.
2029.
Yeah, that's when he graduated.
Which will be here before we know it.
1999.
Yeah. Right. So, you guys started the family earlier. You guys got, well, first of all, you and your wife got married first before me. So you were younger, and then you had a kid right away or pretty quick.
Yeah, it was 2009, I think. Yeah, 2010.
Yeah, I got married in 2010.
Yeah, I was 30 when Blake was born, but my wife is 4 years younger, so yeah.
So that's why I'm older and I have younger. Well, our daughters are the same age, but I got the younger kid.
Athens, my wife is from Athens here, and I loved OU so much that I just kept failing classes and changing majors so I could stick around here for 6 years so that I could meet her. And she, she's 4 years younger than me, but we were probably on the same maturity level when we met at that point. So
I remember hanging out with you while you were still a student. I remember hanging out with you in Athens. We went to Skipper's, which is next to the original Jackie O's.
Yeah,
they own it now.
Yeah, they have both sides.
Okay. Okay. I was pretty sure Skipper's wasn't still around, but it was around for a while. And
Jackie O's Public House now.
Right. So then we take and Jackie O's was the weird, the weird mic, still kind of the weird microbrewery then. They hadn't started really selling.
You were brewing it right there in that bar.
And it was kind of strange because nobody did that. And I was like, oh, what is this weird homebrew? And people liked it. I mean, but it was, was
the
not
still super popular. Yeah.
Right. And we were sitting in Skipper's and you're like, I don't care if I stay here forever, man. And I'm like,
true story.
Because I'm like, are you going to graduate? And you did graduate.
There was a period of time where I literally had enough credits to graduate from anywhere, any college, but I didn't have enough specific ones to actually get it done because I had switched around so much. I was going to be a phys ed teacher for a while. I did a lot of education. I was really into philosophy for a while. I did a lot of philosophy classes. Then I got into psychology.
Oh, I didn't know you did philosophy.
Social psychology. Oh yeah. I did a lot of like 300 and 400 level, got deep into that stuff, but I never had enough to actually graduate from any of those things. So yeah, eventually I had to go to the University College and write out my own, basically a manuscript degree that they approved and basically to get me out of there with a piece of paper because I'd spent way too much money in loans that I'm still paying to this day.
I thought, you are. Okay. I didn't realize you still had it.
I had an academic scholarship at the beginning, but I didn't get good enough grades my freshman year. I partied too much with our fraternity and I lost that. And then mom and dad didn't want to pay after I lost the scholarship. So I took loans. So I
have to say it was good for me that I did not try to do the fraternity as a freshman. I didn't do it till I was a junior. And I got the only C that I got in college in that quarter.
Like you say, I was in honor society in high school too, and had a 3.94 in high school. In college at the very beginning, I didn't take it seriously enough. So
yeah, I mean, you had to have a 3.4. You had to have a 3.4 GPA to get to keep your scholarship. That was
I got a 2.1 my freshman first year, and they pulled the scholarship. Yeah. Steve, my roommate, my buddy, my best friend at the time, he had a 1.9. We used to joke because together we got a 4.0.
But you were kind of in this gray area where your GPA was good enough not to be on probation, but it was too low to get into a major.
I was never on probation, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're never on, but I mean, it was below 2.0, you were on probation.
Yeah.
And you're not the only person I knew that had that kind of situation and had to.
I will tell you though, at the end of my career in like years 6 and 7, I made the dean's list a couple times and I ended up, I took it more seriously. But
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I took my time and I met Amity because of it, which was awesome. So.
Yeah. And then you spent a few years. So you spent a few years living in our hometown. Yeah. And then.
Not like a dozen years, maybe. Building my career for work. Yeah.
You what?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. It was probably a dozen years, maybe after college. But yeah. Thanks to COVID, no more office work, no more commute to the office. I went remote and we moved back to Athens.
Yep, so. Me too. So, love it. I mean, I've been remote since 2016, but it's, I just found out I get a chance to go back. I get a chance to go back to Portland to visit my office again in the spring because we have a new CFO and she wants everybody to come. And if I have to do silly team building, great. I can't wait. Yeah,
say your name and an animal that starts with the same letter and go around the room.
That's all right. Doesn't matter. I might even take my wife with me. We'll see. Let's see if we can make this work. So, but yeah, so being remote is, I mean, one of the things, our dad worked a whole lot, especially when I was a little kid. True. And, it wasn't like he wasn't there for us. He was, but he worked a whole lot. He worked 6 days a week. And then later on, he only worked 4 days a week. So, but it takes a while to get there. And, I'm not going to get to work 4 days a week anytime soon, but, I'm around.
Same. Yeah.
I'm around and boy, am I around.
Yeah.
So, I figure that counts for something. And
yeah, definitely.
But my wife and I were talking about this the other day. My daughter will be in full day kindergarten in the fall. So they will both be in school all day. and that will be big. And it's like, what are we going to do with all this time? So, I mean, we always try to go out, like in the, like Friday, we went downtown to go to the, to downtown Columbus for lunch. We do stuff like that because my daughter's in preschool until like 1 p.m. We try to do stuff. We go on, nothing like going on a date brunch on a Wednesday. Whatever it takes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
well, you don't have a dog, but that's what we like to do. Go on a hike with the dog, or or catch lunch sometime.
So weekends are actually a lot tougher to pull off. So you take the time you have. We'll I don't know. The next step is getting back to having 2 incomes so that we can pay off this house. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that yet. So anyway, probably should get close to wrapping up. We're getting close to midnight here.
Speaking of work in the morning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my commute is 25 feet down the stairs
true.
But I got to get up and get my son to the bus stop.
Yep.
So,
darn real life.
And I got to walk. Our bus stop's a third of a mile down the street. I mean, it feels like a lot when you're still not awake. So.
Yeah, we drive both kids, so it makes it a little hairier because there was a COVID outbreak in the bus drivers here in Athens right at the beginning of the year. So we decided to drive our kids to school. So we got to do all that every day. That's fun.
Yeah, I drove them last year for that part of the year when they weren't remote. But I mean, they made the mask mandates optional. So then we told our son, you can choose whether you want to wear a mask or not. And for the first couple of days, he still wore it. He's like, Dad, I don't feel right with it off in my classroom. And I was like, okay, well, this is a decision you can make. If there's another big spike, then and I noticed it took him a couple days. I think the other kids in the class stopped wearing the mask too. And next thing I know, he's not wearing them at all. So
we also let our children decide because they recently pulled that, and they both haven't been wearing them either. But I got to let them have some control.
Yep. We'll see how this goes. We're dangerously close to normal. Watch it be yanked away from us again.
I haven't done crap for years, and I decided to get on a plane and fly to Arizona and be around people, and I stayed healthy, luckily. But it was a little nerve-wracking for sure.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, you still have to wear a mask on the plane, right?
Oh, yeah,
I haven't.
Definitely.
Yeah, I haven't flown on a plane.
Yeah, for sure.
I would do that too. Yeah. So I still wear it when I go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, well, I was at a bar yesterday with a room full of people, wasn't wearing it. So
just, keep your distance, I guess. Don't breathe their breath.
Yeah.
So before we wrap this up, I do want to make a prediction. Can I make a prediction?
Prediction. Okay, go ahead.
So, we talked about 1989 when the Bengals lost the Super Bowl, and then the following year when the Reds won the World Series. And I do believe this past year, my beloved Joe Burrow did lose the Super Bowl for the Bengals. And so the prediction is, despite all these awful trades and despite the middling projections, this Reds team is going to win the World Series.
Oh boy.
Joey Votto still bringing home. Boys.
He does in fact bang.
Can we get Jose Rijo out of retirement? Where's Billy Hatcher? Where's Glenn Braggs? Where's Joe Oliver?
I remember when Jose Rio came out of retirement, and he didn't have anything, and he still managed to pitch like 50 innings, and I still don't know how he did that. He was throwing like 86, and the fans just went wild every time he came out. Anyway, he's already come out of retirement once. I don't know if it's going to work now, but listen, I would love to see him put together a run. I mean, I think you can, any team can, but it doesn't look real terribly likely on paper. I'm okay with a little bit of rebuilding. I didn't think this was going to be a rebuilding year, and now suddenly it is. And that's the thing that gets me. You're welcome to make that prediction.
It's not a homer prediction at all.
No.
Study the analytics.
I am Midwestern sports fans are known to be kind of, I don't know what the word is, fatalistic maybe, or just like you assume you're going to fall short until you don't. I was actually on the
to put your chips in the pot every time anyway, right? Even though you assume you're going to lose,
right.
And you're surprised if you actually win, but you always bet.
Right. Let me give you a couple of very quick examples. So like when I just mentioned we got a new CFO. I work in a finance department. We have a new CFO, so I had a new boss, and we were like in the how getting to meet you call, and she was talking about college sports, loves college sports, and so everybody's introducing themselves and saying where they're from and everything, and so we started talking about the Bengals. It was right before the Super Bowl, and I'm like, yeah, it's been a really exciting run. They haven't really expected much, and it seems like it's kind of a year too soon. And she goes, do you think they have a chance to win? I said, oh, no, but I really hope so. But no, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. She gave me a kind of a funny look, but I was like, it's been such a tightrope walk. The Rams were scary on paper, and in fact, they were also pretty scary. In that game, that was a great game. I mean, it was a heartbreaker, but it wasn't quite the same kind of heartbreaker that happened the last time around with John Taylor and you knew that the line couldn't stop Aaron Donald, and the line didn't stop Aaron Donald. That's that you're beaten by their best players, and it was a heck of a close game, and they kind of didn't have any business. They got a lucky touchdown that should have been called back.
Yeah, I know, right?
T. Higgins.
I know everybody wants to complain about that pass interference called on, to help the Rams throw the winning touchdown. But the truth of the matter is that T. Higgins touchdown should have never happened either.
No. So listen, I mean, I wanted them to win, and I'm going to I'm going to remind the next time I get a chance to talk to her, if she brings up the Bengals, I'm going to say I wanted them to win. I said I kind of didn't think it was going to happen. I said it in a real funny way to try to get a laugh, and it kind of worked, but I think it also made me look weird. Anyway, but I was doing that. I'd been running that shtick for a couple of weeks. Like, oh yeah, they're not going to win. They're not going to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. The Chiefs are the best team in the AFC. Yeah, and they shouldn't have won the game. They did it, and they beat them twice. They came back and beat the Chiefs twice in 2 games they shouldn't have won.
The funny thing too is the first time we beat the Chiefs was kind of, the situation. I don't think we necessarily deserved to win that game either.
No, I mean they were down to 20-0 or something, 21-3, something like that. Anyway, so I mean it was amazing. I mean it's amazing. I mean you cannot expect to do that every single year. So with the Bengals, for example, it was like, they went out and improved the team on paper a lot, but they may very well not be as good next year, or they may fall short, even though the team might actually be better, because it's
that's how it is. Any given Sunday, right?
Yep. Any given Sunday, right. And baseball has an element of that too. Although, in baseball, the long arc always bends towards the teams with the money.
Large numbers, right.
Exactly. The Dodgers and the Yankees and so on.
In aggregate, it'll find its way.
Yeah. That's what makes that 1990 run that you were referring to earlier so wonderful, because they were, part of the fact that they did wire the wire was that, they got off to a crazy fast start, and they were 30-5 or something. No, what was it? Not 30-5. They won like all the games up front, and then played 500 ball for the last 2/3 of the season. And it was the division was weaker that year. Like there wasn't anybody that ever really got closer.
That was back when there was only 2 divisions, right?
Right. League. And nobody got closer than 3 or 4 games, and they only finished 91-71. So it wasn't like they were dominating. They weren't the big red machine who won 108 and 102 games, right? Or 102 and 108. Yeah. And in their 2 World Series years. And so there was an element of luck there. And then of course, beating the Pirates, who were a good team, they beat them in 6, and then the A's were way better on paper. And then, sweeping them was just very, that was like the beating the Chiefs part, Yeah. And
the Dave Stewart, right?
They beat Bob Welch, who'd won 27 games that year, and Dave Stewart. Yeah, there was who was
Yeah.
the other pitcher they had? Oh, Jesus. There's a left-hander, right?
Who were I can't remember. Who was on the good Pirates team that year? Was that
Well, of
Andy Van
course, Barry Bonds, Andy Van Slyke, Doug
Barry
Brayback,
Bonds, Bobby Bonilla? Yeah, Drayback.
Bobby
That's right.
Bonilla. Yeah,
Yep.
and Bonds immediately left as a free agent.
Yeah.
Van Slyke was gone. Then a year or two, Bonilla went to the Mets, where he's now still getting paid.
Yep.
They talk, and every year it's in my feed. When it's Bobby Bonilla Day, he gets his check for $3.9 million.
Yeah.
It's awesome. The Reds are still paying Ken Griffey Jr., so I'm not
Oh,
going to make
yeah.
fun of that. I saw on the message board that Ken Griffey Jr. is the 6th highest paid player on the Reds this year
Yeah. Maybe not anymore
after the trades.
signings, but yeah, right after those trades, I thought I saw that too. He's still getting paid.
They're paying. I mean, it's a few $1 million, yeah, but they're still paying him. So that's why Junior doesn't look like he gives. I mean, if you see him on he's on the MLB Network all the time, and he's kind of just like, he looks like he spends most of his day in a folding chair.
Yeah, right. But you got to love Junior, man. I mean, he played at Moeller High School in Cincinnati. He's a Cincinnati guy because his dad was there. The Reds have a long history of that. Barry Larkin grew up in Silverton, right by Deer Park, where my first house was. Pete Rose obviously was a Cincinnati kid, although not necessarily a huge Pete Rose fan. But,
I was. I mean, he turns out he was. We didn't know all the things.
Human wise, yeah,
no.
Read too many books and heard too many things about what he did.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff didn't come out till a few years. I mean, no, I know the other stuff.
Yeah, garbage.
Yeah, that was only a few years ago.
Yeah,
that came out. So, I mean, I didn't want I wanted to make sure the Reds didn't hire him in any sort of official capacity even before that stuff. So. Yeah.
The Reds do have a history of having these hometown guys. Yeah, I love Griffey.
I don't think they have any of them right now, though, do they?
I don't know. I'm sure everybody could tell you that Kyle Schwarber's from Middletown.
Yeah. I was Schwarber had a big comeback last year, so I knew he was going to make big money, but I was thinking
he's
they
going
might
out
have
to play with Castellanos in Philly, right?
Yeah, I guess the Phillies are going to have really bad defense.
Yep, it's Bryce Harper and those two, and
someone's going to play center. Who's going to play center field? No, they have Odubel Herrera.
Yeah,
that guy's going to play center field.
Probably like Roman Quinn or somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, but Schwarber. Well, see, there's a DH now, so you can hide these guys. Excuse me, you can hide these guys in the lineup now, or and it's going to be a lot different. I thought I was going to hate. I always consider myself an anti-DH person, being a lifelong National League fan. But, I found that I didn't miss. I mean, when I'm playing baseball on the computer or whatever, and it's like, ooh, I'm going to put in a pinch hitter. I'm a genius. But it's different. In watching a game, though, I don't know that I miss the double switches and the strategy as much.
I was with you for a long time in my life, but probably, I don't know, a few years ago I switched because it's just I was so tired of watching pitchers hit, and it's just awful. Every once in a while you have Bartolo Colon hits his first home run for his career, or Mad Bum jacks a few homers or whatever, but like for me,
Michael Lorenzen.
Professional hitters hit. I don't want to see pitchers hit. I don't want to see pitchers get injured running the bases. I don't want to see I don't know.
I mean, for every pitcher that's fun to watch hit.
For left fielders and first basemen and batters, those guys have been undervalued for years now, and adding the DH finally brings them back into the fold too. So, for a while there, it's like every team is just like, oh, anybody with a bat, you put in left field, I don't know.
Right. So now, instead of carrying so many pitchers on your roster, these not so great pitchers, now you can carry a defensive specialist, so you could do a Eugenio Suarez type thing at shortstop, and then have a guy whose job is to come in and play the 8th and 9th inning at shortstop once in a while, and maybe start once a week or whatever. You have a little more room on the team to do other things that are still strategic. It's not like you automatically give it away just because you don't have to pinch it for the pitcher all the time. You can play some all glove guys in the lineup, bat them 9th, and then pinch it for them if you need to. I mean, that stuff still happens.
There's still a lot of theory in the game. It's just different.
I think that's when I realized that the DH wasn't going to bother me.
Look at the opener strategy. Look at the bullpen strategies now. They're so different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I think those are neat too.
Look at the Rays, like having pitchers play third base, for one batter and then switch back into pitch. I mean, there's been some interesting stuff that's that you can do. It doesn't always have to be a double switch and a classic National League.
Yeah, right. And so I got over it, and I was kind of proud of myself because I thought I was never going to be in favor of it. As far as the other rules go, I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth on the shift.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like people who want to ban the shift, they don't like the aesthetics of the fielder shifting around. They don't like the way it looks.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm not sure where I stand with that.
I do agree that it's good to have more line drive singles and more, doubles and triples down the line, the kind of stuff that gets taken away by a shift. Is there anything more exciting than the guy hitting the ball into the corner and then sliding past the tag at third base? I don't know if that's going to mean, you got to have two infielders on both sides or whatever. But supposedly the data actually shows that the shift isn't actually, or it was in the minor leagues when they decided it was in high A ball or whatever. They decided to ban the shift to see what happened, and it didn't really make any difference is what it was. So I think it was in a Baseball America podcast I listened to.
Perhaps the lowered batting average and less hits doesn't have anything to do with the shift.
But it feels like batting averages are down.
Maybe
there are less singles and doubles.
It used to be 260, and now it's like 240, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's more about all or nothing approach, no shortening up, no weak contact, and it's all about velocity and spin, pitch tunneling from pitchers and all that stuff. I mean, just the sophistication.
Yeah. What did you think about moving the mound back a foot? I heard that one.
I don't know.
Apparently, it does actually slow fastballs down a little
bit. I mean,
big bases are going to end up happening.
Yeah, I'm all for trying things. I mean, if it doesn't work, you try it back. I don't think that it should be. I don't like the idea of like an archaic game where it must stay the same forever because that's how it used to be. Like things progress.
Yeah.
Now, please don't make it like some crazy like video game sort of like.
Right. Like that. Apparently, that's what happened when they did the. You can only throw over to first a couple of times, and then if you don't pick them off the third time, then it's a balk or whatever. The single A ball turned into the 1985 St. Louis Cardinals on every team.
Run. Yeah.
Yeah. These teams have stole 200 and some bases with Vince Coleman and
right.
Lonnie Smith and Ozzie Smith and like everybody on the team had stolen bases except for like Jack Clark and the catcher. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on. If you ever go look on like social media, there's a team called the Savannah Bananas. Have you heard of them?
Not specifically.
Yeah, it's I think, is it Independent League? I don't think it's affiliated.
Because there's the Savannah Sand Gnats.
No, this is
an affiliate. The Bananas. Okay.
It's pro ball, but I want to say it's not affiliated. I think it's independent.
Yeah. I think there's a team like that in Portland. They have the Portland Pickles.
Before their season starts, they play games, exhibition games with college teams and other non-affiliated ball teams, and they have some crazy, wacky rules that they implement in the games for fun. Mm-hmm. Like I just saw a clip on Twitter from them. They had a rule, and they call it banana ball. And so that's like like
some sort of Harlem Globetrotters type of thing.
Basically, right. So like literally, you need to see these clips. Like go look this up after
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Savannah Bananas. All right.
Yes. And banana ball includes a rule where if you foul it into the stands and a fan catches it, it's an out.
I'll shorten the game. Yeah.
That happened the other day. Also, if what is it? Is it ball? There's no walks. So if it's ball 4, then it becomes a sprint where the runner, it's a race. All 9 fielders have to touch the ball before they can tag him. And typically the runners always get first, just like a walk anyway. But there's the chance for the fielders to throw the ball away or whatever. And in this particular highlight, all 9, they all run towards second base, all the fielders, and they're like flipping the ball to each other, trying to touch it. And the guy tried to take second and he got thrown out. It was a pretty cool highlight. But anyway, these are literally, they're playing these
All
games.
right.
Professional. Look it up. I'm telling you, it's interesting.
Okay. Well, yeah, I will.
It's for fun. Now, I hope it doesn't get to that point in real baseball. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's fun, but let's not do that in MLB.
Do you remember a Nintendo game I had called Base Wars, where you played the game with robots, and then when you got to a base, you had a robot battle, and the winner it was safe route.
You earned money for winning games, and you could buy like better like gear for your bots to fight on the bags. And I remember that game.
You give the biggest gun to the first baseman because that's where there's going to be the most fights. All right.
Yep. Oh yeah, I remember.
Not bad. That's that's turning ahead the clock. So, all right, man. Listen, we should probably get moving. So It's been fun. I'm sure we didn't even cover everything you sent me in the text message that you wanted to talk about. Just summary, and everybody in Athens claims to know Joe Burrow or the Burrow family. It's a small town. There's 15,000 permanent residents.
Yep. Can I do my claim before we hang up?
Go ahead. What's your connection to Joe Burrow?
I've been hearing about him since high school because he was at Ohio, high school player of the year. My father-in-law was the editor of the newspaper here and followed him all through high school. I mean, so I'd heard about him for a long time. But anyway, when we bought this house, the former homeowners sent us pictures from years back of him in the basement I'm sitting in right now with her 2 high school daughters who were cheerleaders at the time, and he was friends with them. So I have pictures of him in my basement, which is kind of cool. The lady that moved in next door was his maybe elementary music teacher, so she knew him. She said that he was too cool to sing. And then let's see, the lady that used to own this house also sent me pictures from her daughter back in like 9th grade. She had drawn pictures of that she was friends with Burrow, and she had drawn him. It was his body or his head on the body of a deer with a shotgun and the nickname Buckshot Burrow. So it's just because,
you did not mention that one.
That was a new one. Yeah, that's true though.
Okay.
Yeah, so and then Sam Smathers, his youth coach that forced him to be a quarterback. I'm sure you saw the article.
I did read that. Yes.
Sam Smathers
said you need to be the quarterback.
Plains, right by Joe Burrow Stadium at Athens High School. He picks up his grandson from the same elementary school as my daughter every day. So Amity sees him every time. Really nice guy. I just got my taxes done over in the Plains the other day, and I'm sitting getting my taxes done, looking out the window, and can see Joe Burrow Stadium right there, right across the street. So I'm just close enough to taste it. But,
there were
waiting for him to show up here and be like, "Hey man, I used to hang out in that basement. You want to have a beer?" It's coming.
Right. Who knows what happened in the basement? But the
he probably lost his opportunity down here. I mean, right? Probably. I'm just gonna make that claim.
I don't know. I'm
just kidding.
Just in case somebody sees this, because Crash does put them up on YouTube.
And definitely not 2 hours in.
No, well, true. But as Jordan famously told me, once you get past an hour, people tune out, and then we talked for 2.5 hours. And my story about delivering a pizza to the Griffey family is in that one.
Right.
I won't repeat that one. Okay, so. Well, you have to drive your car a long way, all the way to Kentucky once a month still. Those podcasts, apparently, you were desperate enough for content that you,
I've listened to a lot of Effectively Wild, and I've listened to all of these. Yep.
Effectively Wild. Yeah.
Yep.
Now that Kevin Goldstein has departed planet Earth again.
On the plane on the way to Arizona. I know you read it too. One of my favorite books.
Oh, yeah.
Miller. The only rule is it has to work, where they took over the Sonoma Stompers and implemented a lot of Moneyball analytics.
Yes, that's right.
Great book.
I'm really sad that Kevin Goldstein again passed away. Sorry, R.I.P. Kevin. He left Fangraphs and went to work for Minnesota Twins.
Right.
And I never caught up with his new podcast.
He's no longer allowed to talk to people again. Right.
Right. And so I've got a couple of the Chin Music episodes saved, but I was going to write him, and I was thinking it might get me on the show. Like, hey, we have this league that's a tribute to your old podcast.
I guess we're not all the first time. Damn.
and now it's not going to happen, and it's sad. So I should have been more upfront about that. I feel bad.
Well, once him and Correa implement a new cheating scandal in Minnesota and he gets kicked out, he'll be back on a new. He'll be back to public. So maybe we can get on then. Not after he sees that comment though.
It's like, oh look, Carlos brought like 10 rubber trash cans to the. Oh wow, they're in his locker.
Actually, I'm all in on Carlos Correa because I just spent $23 on him in a surprise move.
23 fake dollars. Yeah.
Yes, fake dollars. I knew I wanted Kenley Jansen back because he was on my team last year, and I knew I wanted Castellanos back. I had to pick up Arias to fill my Chris Taylor utility role, but the Correa move was totally not planned, and I went for it. So
I ended up with Corey Seager. It wasn't my plan either.
I know.
So now I've got him for 9 years.
I know. Quite a good price too, I might say. I was surprised.
And it won't be that good in 9 years, but yeah. So the only reason I was able to pull that off is because very unexpectedly, my most expensive player, Alex Bregman, was taken first overall in the expansion draft, which I was not expecting. Yeah. I did not think he would be taken in a million years.
Yep.
Not only was he taken first overall.
Yep. Right before Luis Patino was stolen from me. I still cry about that one. I should have kept him, but
yeah.
I also lost Luis Severino and Wilson Contreras and Max Kepler. Pretty big pieces.
I lost David Fletcher, which might be addition by subtraction, but we'll see. I don't know that Fletch can really hit. I mean, he hit a little bit before, but he hasn't really been hitting, and he doesn't seem like someone who's going to just suddenly start hitting again. I mean, maybe if he takes steroids.
Maybe he'll get on base a lot ahead.
He's one of those guys that's better in real baseball, right? Like Tucker Barnhart, much better in real baseball than on your fantasy team.
That's one of the biggest things you have to underwrite when you're doing the prospect drafts. When they see the lists, is which one of these guys are on here for their speed and defense and arm.
Right,
right. Don't matter that much. They might get you to the league quicker, but they're not going to help you in fantasy baseball.
Yeah. This prospect's a catcher. Oh, okay. What house is bat?
Right.
I don't give a crap about if you can throw runners out.
His pop time doesn't matter.
Right. So I mean, when I picked Shea Langoliers, who was a first round draft pick in real life, known mostly for his defense, and I think he lasted until the third or fourth round of our draft. And I mean, he actually has hit so far in
at that point.
Pro Ball.
It's worth a flyer because if he unlocks it,
and he just got traded to Oakland, so he's going to get some time. He's probably going to make the big leagues this year. It's going to be interesting to see if he hits.
He got traded along with one of my rookie prospects, who was a 7th or 8th round pick, Christian Pash, who's all defense.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of.
He struck out more than Cody Bellinger has lately. I mean, it's
some of these prospects that got to the. Yeah, like Leody Tavares is another one. He got to the big leagues, and there's a lot of doubt about whether how much he's really going to hit major league pitching.
Magneria Sierra.
Yeah, and so right. I just it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, right. Best of luck this season.
Thank you. Rivertown got to defend the title.
Defend the title. This was your first title, right?
It is. Yep. I've made it before and lost in the World Series.
Speaking as someone with 3 of them,
bad team. The only person still on my team, I think, is Christian Yelich from when I inherited it. But I've always made it a point not to tank. I always wanted to compete.
Yeah. And tanking in fantasy baseball is just not
right. And I made the big move a couple of years ago. I made the trade with Crash for Jacob deGrom and Brad Hand at the time, and I gave him Matt Olson, which I know at the time it was a great move, and it propelled me to the World Series, and now I have a title. But in a couple of years, I'm going to be kicking myself because Matt Olson's got his extension. Yeah, but that was worth it at the time. So
that was an act of mercenary coldness by the Braves, by the way, letting Freddie Freeman, their franchise cornerstone, go the year after they won the World Series and getting a different guy. And I understand
did it a smart way by getting Olson before Freeman signed elsewhere, and then turning around afterward and bookending it with Kenley Jansen signing.
Yes. Now, listen, I think their team is better.
Alex Anthopoulos, man, he picked up. Remember, I mean, the Braves were kind of like, after they got in trouble for all the international stuff and like the GM, what was that guy's name? It was like
Capolella.
Yeah, and all that. I mean, Anthopoulos really turned them around. So.
Yeah, no, it was cold, man. It was cold. Everybody thought Freeman was going back to the Braves.
Cold-blooded.
Anyway, they're better. They're better now.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too. Good
All
talking,
right.
bro.
Have a good
All
one.
righty. See you later.